We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway? Mr. Bransky? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here. Let the record show Mr. Boraski, Mr. Galloway both had family commitments this evening, so they're unable to be with us. We proud to start off our meeting tonight with a presentation by Chief Wilcox. This kind of wonderful program that started last year that I know is real popular with police and with the school district as well. So we'll let him go ahead and introduce his fellow chiefs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, honored staff, moms, dads, grandfathers, friends. This evening is a long road where we started a program called Chief for a Day that started in January, and we're finishing off this evening here. And in doing so, it took a lot of people to put this program together. I'm going to kind of run you through how the program looks. There's 6 participating schools: Eleanor Roosevelt, Manor, Penn Valley, Fallsington, Penryn, and Oxford Valley. I thought I was going to forget one. And they're all the schools that are come under the umbrella of Pennsbury School District. It takes a lot of people to put this program together. It took the principals, the teachers, their staff, our staff at the police department, my secretary, the Honorable Judge Vislowski, everybody that put this program together. So I'm going to give you how the kids, I would go to each one of the schools. Say I went to Fallsington Elementary. I went there, I picked them up at a specific time, 9 o'clock in the morning. I waited till the bell rang. I would have to sign them in and take them. So we would get in the car, and I would pick their brain a little bit. I would say, what's your favorite subject in school? Do you play sports? Do you play an instrument? Ask them if they have any brothers or sisters, and we would talk about all that stuff. So then we would go down the street to Court 10, and we would meet with the judge's staff. So I would tell the judge's staff all about this student for the day. So then we would go in before the judge. The judge would come out, and the judge would swear each one of them in. And I think most of the chiefs for the day brought home their swearing in, their oath that they took. They took an oath for the Falls Township Police Department. So then we would go back to police headquarters, and we would take their photograph, and they would get their own ID. And they would get a lanyard and their own ID. And then we would start the program for the day. We would go in and we'd speak to each one of the lieutenants, and the lieutenants would ask them questions. For instance, Officer Ward used to ask them about changing the patch, about the siren in Fallsington. Lieutenant Pletnick would ask them about hiring people. Lieutenant Airy, who has since retired in March, was a big part of this program. He would ask them about whether they would want to buy SUVs or regular police units, and it necessitated them making decisions, and they made great decisions. You should be proud of every one of the boys and girls who participated in this program. They did a great, great job. So then we would go from there. We would go, and I would take them for the tour of the police station. We'd go into where we have our mainframe in our computer room. I would show them that. I would take them in where we keep all our weaponry. They would go up with detectives, and they would, depending on what detective was working at the time, they would lift fingerprints, they would do DNA, they would see if this one detective was working at the time, he would show them actual footage of a holdup that went down. And they would have to make decisions, and they would have to talk about this. And then we went from there. We would meet with they would have a roll call. I would call the sergeant in from the street. He would have roll call. They would meet with the crew that was working. They would take them out to their cars. They would show them all the equipment and everything. Then we would go back into the processing room. We'd go back into the processing room, and then we would show them what we do with the prisoners and how the officers have to secure their weaponry. When they come in, they pull into the gate, how they have to secure the car. We showed them everything that we do and why we do it. Then we went back into the back, and we took them in and we showed them evidence. We showed them every part of evidence. We showed them where we keep the evidence and everything that went along with that. Forgot the most important part here. We would ask them what they want for lunch, and they had their choice of whatever they wanted. We went from pancakes to pizza, and whatever they wanted. When somebody wanted Starbucks, we got it. Whatever they wanted, they got that day.
Starbucks.
So Mrs. Seiler would go out and she would purchase lunch, and they said, whatever I want. I said, absolutely. So they would make the choices. So while Mrs. Seiler was out getting lunch, I would take them in the police car and I would give them a tour around Falls Township and show them how big the township is and what an officer has to do and what happens at nighttime and where they have to patrol. I took them down to the docks. I took them into every place that our officers go, and this is 26 square miles. They got a big tour of it, and we went to the park. Your sons and daughters did everything that our police officers did, and I can't tell you how proud I am of them and what a great job that they did. They gave great answers. They were attentive. They were extremely polite. Great kids that you have. And I want everybody to know here that we had nothing to do with choosing them. This was a result of their teachers and the administrators in each individual school. I didn't want to be part and parcel to any choosing of them. But the students that they chose were right on the money. They did a great job, and you should be very, very proud. There's a lot of people that we have to thank here. Judge Vislowski put a lot of time and effort into this. There was a lot of cancellations. As you know, when we started in January and we went through, that we had weather, we had school cancellations, and the administrators and the principals of each one of these schools did a bang-up job, did a great job in working with us. But the judge went above and beyond, and everybody in this room should know that. She made up the certificates, she created the oath, she did everything for the last 2 years. And if we canceled, she accommodated her schedule for us. So I would like everybody just put your hands together and thank the judge. I want to thank our detectives, I want to thank our lieutenants, our police officers, everybody. This was a joint effort, and everybody did a great job, and they put your kids first and foremost, and you should be very, very proud. What we're going to do is we're going to, Mrs. Seiler will call out the names. I will hand the certificates to the judge. The judge will give the certificates to your children here, and following this ceremony here, there'll be light refreshments and some cookies and all over in the other side of the building. Mrs. Seiler will direct you over there. Any questions by anybody that you had with the program about your children? Once again, I can't say enough nice things. Great kids, and this program went flawlessly this year. And I just want to say thank you for allowing your children to participate. Thank you very much.
Actually, start with this, the Township, the school district.
Okay, we're going to do this by school. So we're going to start with Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary. We have Ty Decker. Juliana Masari. Nija Ayub. I don't know if she's here. She's not here. Max Whittle. I don't know if he's here. No, Max is not. Next, we have Fallsington Elementary, Joe Beitler. R.J. Gore. Okay, from Manor Elementary, we have Ava Apelt. Marceli Disnewski. Angelina Hill. And Allie Capriotti, I know she couldn't make it. From Oxford Valley Elementary, we have Alana Nagata. Maddie Trunfio. Maddie should be in there too. Where's Maddie's? That's the- Fiona Bennell. From Penn Rin School, Grace Holmes. From Penn Valley Elementary, Chloe Salton. She is not here tonight. Aiden Analaskis. And Kiernan Shaw. Thank you.
For the children that couldn't show up tonight, we'll make sure that we get them in the mail and we get them out to the families promptly. Once again, we couldn't have did this program without the cooperation of the Board of Supervisors. We run more community-oriented policing programs than any police department in Bucks County. And this evening, at the conclusion, I will talk about that. But it all comes about the cooperation between the police department and the Board of Supervisors. And I have to tell you that the cooperation between the Board of Supervisors and our police department is excellent. That's why you have such a good police department. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
That concludes our program. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and just before everybody leaves, first I want to echo Chief Wilcox's comments regarding everybody that was involved, Mrs. Seiler, Judge Kozlowski, and as well as the staff, principals, et cetera, at Pennsbury. But this program really started with Chief Wilcox. So he was the one that brought it to us and wanted, and explained it, and it was sort of a no-brainer for us. This was not a hard decision for us to say, absolutely, go ahead and do that. This was easy. So really, I think Chief Wilcox deserves a round of applause as well. Now, we have some business to take care of. You're more than welcome to stay. I'm sure the cookies and whatever things they have over there are probably more attractive than what we're going to be going through. So if people are going to get up and leave, that's fine. You're not going to hurt our feelings. Yeah, no, you can't go.
And I'd have a couple of pops and the kids.
Check out some dames.
Check out the roads.
During public comment.
Okay. All right, before we get to public comment, which is our first item on the agenda, I am going to ask our solicitor, Mr. Clark, to give a summary of two executive sessions. The board had an executive session last week, and then we all had a brief one before our meeting tonight. So,
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. On the evening of July 10th, the board held an executive session to discuss various personnel matters. two matters involving contract negotiations with two of the township's unions and litigation involving Verizon. At the executive session earlier this evening, the board discussed several personnel matters and contract negotiations.
Okay, thank you. All right, pretty extensive list here of people signing in. For those that aren't familiar, we do have a 5-minute maximum per speaker, and we try to limit it to 45 minutes for the entire, but if we have to go over that, that's fine. First name on the list is Mark Brown. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the inspections on the tanks. I don't know why. I own a mobile home park, Brown's Mobile Home Park.
Mm-hmm.
And the Board of Health comes around every year and they inspect what would the DEP do that the Board of Health isn't already doing.
Mm-hmm. So you're referencing the agenda item number, where is it, 3?
On the sewers.
Yeah. And we do, just so people know, we do allow public comment on our agenda items as well. But in terms of that ordinance, which we're going to be looking at later on, that is an ordinance that essentially is mirroring what the state law already says in terms of on-site septic sewage systems. Mr. Clark or Ms. Gallagher, you want to give a summary of?
Yeah, if you look, Mr. Harvey, at the agenda, where's the 5-3? There is item number 10 is consider a resolution for the Act 537 plan update. This is part of an update that we are required to do with the Department of Environmental Protection, updating our 537 plan, which is the sewer planning document that has to be submitted for the township to DEP. One of the reasons we are updating our 537 plan is because of a connection ban that has been imposed by Bucks County Water and Sewer through DEP. We've been in negotiations for the last year and a half in an attempt to resolve this connection ban. What this connection ban means is that if any new business in the township or any existing business that wants to increase the size of their business, they've been unable to connect to the sewer system because of this connection ban. As part of the negotiations with Bucks County Water and Sewer and with DEP, DEP is requiring that we update our sewer management program plan, and that is what agenda item number 3 is this evening. Much of what is contained in this sewer management plan is already contained in township ordinances in various parts. It's also what is in some ways, to a lesser extent, contained in the Township of Falls Authority's rules and regulations. So essentially what we're doing tonight is we're taking various rules that are spread out throughout the township code, and we are putting them in one sewage management plan. I would say at the request of DEP, but that's not accurate, sort of at the direction of DEP.
Okay. So in other words, this ordinance we're passing tonight, does it add anything in terms of powers of the township?
It modifies some of the requirements. The main one that is added into the ordinance is that every 3 years, owners of property that use an on-site system are required to provide proof to the Township of Falls Authority that they have pumped and hauled. They cleaned out the tank and pumped and hauled everything away from site. That's the main change from what's currently existing in the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to address that because when I first bought the park, I listened to the people that pump them, and they say, pump them every 2 or 3 years, at least a tank, to get the heavy stuff out of there so it doesn't overflow into the pool and clog it up. And so I did that, and I still had backup, still had mud in the bottom and stuff. I never felt the bottom of the tank because you couldn't get it through a foot and a half of sludge, And then somebody who lived there said, I'm going to check this out. And took a pipe and went down to the bottom, scraped around in the tank, and there was no muck. There was no nothing. I could feel the concrete scraping with the pipe. And I said, what do you do? He said, dump this Robic, K37 in there every 6 months, and the bugs eat all the crap up, and it's clean. And I thought, this is great. So I went out and I bought, $7.95 a bottle at Walmart, dumped it in all the rest of the tanks. And 6 months later, I went down there with a pipe and scratched around on the bottom, and all the muck was gone. So I don't know whose idea it was to say you have to pump them, but it's not true.
It's devar-
Here's a video of me with the pipe in the bottom. I'd like you guys to take a look at it. It only takes about 20 seconds.
Okay.
23 seconds, sorry. So I guess I asked a question about the inspections. Since the Board of Health already does inspect, what is the DEP going to do that the Board of Health doesn't? I guess that kind of answered another question to me, is like, who brought this about? What happened? I mean, people's tanks have been there for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And some people have problems and need to address them. But I mean, a lot of people that don't have a problem, and you're just making them do things that's not necessary.
I heard it.
If the system is working.
Well, as Mr. Clark said, we have multiple projects in the township, including a couple out here, that have not been able to move forward simply because we're not allowed to allow them to move forward because DEP isn't letting us. And one of the reasons DEP is now hopefully going to allow us to start some of these projects, not our projects, but just private businesses, is that they're telling us, sir, you have to do these things. You have to update this on-site sewage system, ordinance. You have to adopt this 537 plan.
Did they
So that's
tell you to adopt a plan, or did they specifically,
both.
everything in there is
Both.
what they specifically want? But I think what you can see by looking at the video or come to my place and look for yourself, there's no sense in pumping a tank that doesn't have sludge in it to be pumped out. And they want you also to inspect the baffle. I don't know how they plan on doing that. Can they just go down through like a small pumping hole and look with a camera, or do they have to dig down 3 feet and take this 200-pound lid off of there, 2 foot around 4-inch concrete lid, so they can look inside?
That I couldn't answer. Ms. Gallagher?
The ordinance authorizes the Township of Falls Authority to establish specific regulations regarding the frequency and the scope of the inspections. And this is based off the model ordinance from the Department of Environmental Protection.
Yeah, so TOFA, the Water Authority, would be the ones that would be doing that, or, if they're not in TOFA, does it matter, or whoever the authority is, or we're only empowered to empower TOFA?
Correct.
So Lower Bucks Joint and Marsville Municipal Authority would presumably already have these in place.
No, this is a township ordinance,
Okay.
but because the ordinance as drafted empowers TOFA to administer this program for the entire township.
Okay.
These are for systems, Mr. Harvey, that aren't connected to Lower Bucks Joint or are not connected to Bucks Water and Sewer. These are on-lot systems. But the way the ordinance is written, DEP requires that somebody has to have the inspection authority, and we've written this ordinance in a way to give, in such a way as to give that authority to TOFA.
Okay. All right.
To TOFA, the Public Water Sewer Authority?
Right.
So they're the ones going to send the inspectors out?
They can, yeah. They can.
Well, they were saying in the thing that they're going to come out and inspect every year, and I thought, the Board of Health already does that. What are they going to do different, or what are they?
They're empowered to inspect. I mean, they don't necessarily, if the Board of Health is doing it, it's really TOFA that has the ability to do it now, or will have the ability to do it now. How often they do it, how often they have the staff to do it is sort of, I think, was something they're going to decide on.
Didn't they put in the system about when you sell your home, it has to be able to be certified to handle so many people that's moving into the home?
Right.
I would think that would be falling under the due diligence or Somebody said that, the bank won't lend you unless the tank passes a perk test or something. Either it works or it doesn't,
Right.
I mean, I've been messing with these tanks for 48 years, so, either they're taking it or they're not, and I had ones where guys, kids come in and live with them, and it wasn't taking it all, and it was coming up, and I said, what I'm going to do now? So I went on the internet and I looked and seen AeroStream, I say, hey, put this in and it pumps air in there and some fresh bugs, and if you don't like it, in 6 months we'll give you your money back. But 95% of the people don't give their money back because it works. Pump some air in there and throw some bugs, and 4 days later you look down in the hole, 6 feet down's the water. It used to be right up at the top. So I'm thinking, this is good. This is great, and everything's well. The tanks don't have any sludge in them. I got a AeroStream sitting in my shed, so if someone pops up, you can plug it in and make it go. And now they want me to spend money to pump a tank that doesn't need pumped.
Well,
Or I pay for inspectors to come around to look, and I'm hoping that what I'm asking you and how they're going to inspect or what they're going to do is something that you can see if you can make some modifications to this system and see. I don't see any of it that's really necessary myself, but if the DEP wants it, then they're going to get it.
Right.
But maybe you could negotiate something up to say, this isn't working.
yeah, well, we,
Have them talk to me if you want,
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to inspect it and require anything. It's at their discretion, the township authority.
Right.
Like they may, have somebody come out, look in your hole and say, okay, you're good. I doubt they're going to be doing much more than that. I mean,
Well, what it,
You said
when
either
I
works or it
read
doesn't
this
work.
thing that you guys put out and said that,
right, it's written by
you had to
lawyers.
pump them, and then when you did pump them, somebody had to inspect the baffles, making sure they were in good working order. It's like, well, how are they going to inspect it? So I got to get down to where they can get into the tank, or can they do it through a little hole? These are things that's a lot of work. Did they want to, to dig that thing up just to look at it, and a lot of money to have them pumped?
Mr. Brown.
I don't see the reason for it, so.
all right, but we do have other speakers, so we have to kind of get to the other people on the list, okay? Mr. Smith, did you want to speak too, or are you?
No, I was just,
Okay.
for technicality, just to make sure.
That's fine. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Ed and Shara Begley?
No, just sign though.
Okay. Dan Bennett?
I have more questions about item number 3.
All right.
Do you want to do it now, or do you want to save it for
We can save it for 3. So we allow public comment on the agenda item.
on the agenda?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Joe Beitler? I think his son received one of the awards, so yeah. Fran Bedikevich? Same thing?
More questions about number 3?
Okay. Mark Weigel, I'm guessing same thing?
Yeah, my only question is, you guys are talking about.
You have to come to the microphone, sir. Sorry.
You guys are talking about the, how this is all working, but in the forms that I read through the township, it's talking about fees that are coming to me and pumping expenses and township fees that are coming to me. That just sounds like a side note of taxing of my stuff. Like, I don't understand, how much is my fee going to be? The form that was sent out to me,
It just authorizes Topher to pass the fees.
and who's getting that money and what do I get for it?
If it's inspection fees basically cover, actually, they don't usually cover the cost of our inspectors. Usually, we don't raise enough money through inspection fees to cover inspectors. But essentially, it's the inspector going out. It would be a TOFA inspector who would go out and inspect, how much time it takes, et cetera.
I mean, the way I understood it was a township. They were going to get someone from the township to do
The
that.
Township of Falls Authority, the Water Authority, which is Township of Falls
Oh,
Authority.
really? I'm being penalized because I have a septic system? Because I got to pay these extra fees?
There's,
It's not a penalty,
Well,
it's a fee that has to be paid. And again,
So it's a tax.
no, it's not a tax. It's a fee,
Well,
it's
paying
an
the
inspection
township-
fee to make sure that your system is operating properly.
I lived in my unit now since 1996. I've had the same pumper. Now you're telling me I have to get someone special. Hang on. From what I read in your thing, it says you're going to certify certain pumpers to come out to pump me out, which I don't understand. The guy that I use, I think's awesome. He's taken care of me well. I've been dealing with him since 1996, and now you're telling me that maybe I can't use him, and I got to pay you guys to come out and tell me that I'm doing it right. I've been here since 1996. I've never had a problem with my septic. And you guys really don't even know where I live. I live back in the village of Wheat Chief. We get nothing from the township, and that's fine because we live in our own little community. But now you're coming back, knocking on my door and telling me I can come on your property anytime you want, anytime I want, and I can do this, I can do that. And I'm like, that's crap.
Mr. Harvey, the section that the speaker is referring to is that the septic tank shall have the septic tank shall be pumped by a qualified pumper hauler within 6 months of the effective date of this ordinance. I'm assuming that the speaker's, the person who he's using now is qualified and licensed. This is an example of something that's already existing in our ordinances. This is not a new regulation. This is something that's already existing in our ordinance. And I don't mean to split hairs with the speaker, but he keeps saying, you're making us do this, you're making us do this. The township is being told we must do this by the Department of Environmental Protection.
But why is that cost coming back to me?
The Department of The Department of Environmental Protection has jurisdiction over your system.
And I understand that.
And they're telling us we must do this.
So, but the cost is coming to me, right? So I'm being taxed, is basically what it comes down to.
If you want to make it sound like a tax, sir,
Well,
you can.
if I'm paying the
but
township
it's
to
not.
do it, the
It's an
township's doing
inspection
it.
fee. It's the same thing as if you go get your car inspected. It's the same thing if you are going to get some other work done at your house and you're going to have it inspected.
But when you guys brought the sewer lines into Falls Township Park, you said it's not worth the township's cost to bring us sewage. So now it just seems to me that, okay, whatever. I take care of my tank. But now you're telling me, let's figure another way of taxing him out. And basically that's how we feel. I don't know why that's coming back on me. I'm sure you understand.
No, I don't.
You really don't.
No.
You don't understand that if
Mr.
if I come knocking on your door and I say I want to walk your property, and I want to inspect this, this, and this, and then I want you to pay me, you're fine with that? You can't. You honestly can't look at me and tell me you're fine with that.
I'm looking at you right now and I'm telling you I'm fine with
How
that.
much is it?
Because the Department of Environmental Protection is telling
Which
us
has been taking
we
care of
must
this all along.
this.
But
we must
Department
pass
of
this
Regulations
ordinance.
never said, hey, Mark, I need another $300 from you. They never came after me for money. But you are.
$300. Where did you get that from?
I have no idea.
That's what I don't get. And how much is it? No one's telling me how much I got to pay.
No, it's not the township.
It's going to be passed by TOFA. If TOFA is going to charge for the inspections,
Right.
then they'll be the ones who will set the amount that will be charged for the inspections.
Right.
Is Topher here tonight? Yes.
Topa's not.
No, I'll take that. I heard it, why is it even on your agenda?
Because we empower TOFA. TOFA is Township of Falls Authority. We're the ones who, wait, sir, excuse, we're the ones who name people to that board. The board functions independently. They set the fees.
Look, since 1976, you're just deciding now to enforce it.
No, we're, no.
No, we're
But we're
not.
gonna,
DEP is telling us we
do
have
have-
to do this now.
we have a list of people, so we have Mr. Bedekevich who's speaking now. We'll get to you, sir, later on if you want to speak.
I'm Mark.
Mark, I'm sorry.
That's hot.
I'm sorry. I lost track of where I was. Mr. Weigel, I'm sorry.
No, and you said it right, too. That's cool.
The issue comes down to something. This has been well over a year that we've been fighting with DEP for things just because they won't let us move forward on certain projects. They just won't. They refuse, absolutely refuse. And we've been trying and trying and trying to get them the budge, and they won't.
But, when
They're telling us, you absolutely have to do this. You have areas of your township where there are on-site systems that have to be regulated more strictly, and you have to do this.
And I understand.
We don't have it, that's it. I mean,
But what I don't understand in the public notice, like I read it, this, I mean, I found out about this. I wasn't even notified from the township saying, hey, we got to look into this, and you're part of this, you know, you have septic. So the township never notified me, and if my neighbor didn't notify me reading it through the public notice, I wouldn't be here today. So, which I think's wrong. We should have been notified by the township saying, hey, this is going on. And the other thing that no one knows is how much? How much?
Well, that's, and
So
you
before
certainly.
you pass this ordinance, and then, what, you drop a 10-grand bill on me, or is it
not gonna
5?
be.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not gonna be
but
that much.
Says you now.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you that before DEP has come to us and told us that we may have to in the future force anybody who has an on-lot system to connect, which would cost you about $10,000 minimum.
No, well, what's it going to cost you?
It's not gonna, well,
Well, it costs the township a lot of money to bring it back to me because
It's-
that's why it's not there.
That's not actually correct.
No.
The way the law is written, if we run a sewer line to get to your house and every other house, you're responsible for paying for the sewer line, not for the.
No, I understand that, but you won't bring it back to me is what I'm saying.
No, but if we ran a sewer line
The
all the way
connection, I
back to your
understand.
house and it cost $250,000, if there were only 10 houses that it served, it'd be $25,000
yeah,
each.
that's the way it works.
Huh?
It's actually.
Like I said,
taking so
I just don't know how you're asking me to do something, and I don't know how much it's going to cost.
Well, TOFA, the Township of Falls Authority, meets the third Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow
Why
night?
aren't they here tonight to help us, like to make this a little more clear?
Yeah, so it's fourth. It's the fourth Wednesday. TOFA meets, I believe, the fourth Wednesday. Their office is down, which used to be the old Sears warehouse building
Right.
on Lincoln Highway. That's a public meeting too. Now they obviously they're not. I don't believe they're going to be sort of passing fees tomorrow. They're going to have to investigate and figure out how to do this. But we have to empower them before they can even have the discussion. They've obviously been included in all these discussions. They know this is coming. So I mean, it's but they're the ones, and certainly you can make the argument to them about keeping the fees manageable. I think they will. We've tried very hard here in this township with all the permit fees, building fees, everything we do, to try and stay as reasonable as we can. We end up losing money on inspection fees for driveways and everything else that we do. We actually don't make money. It's not a money-making opportunity for us. We were actually less expensive than a lot of the townships around, and we do that on purpose. Because we don't want to sort of really crush people who all of a sudden have to get some work done because something happened, or they we don't want to do that. And TOFA is going to be in the same boat. They're going to have the same ideas. This is not something we're doing because we're trying to make life difficult for people. DEP is telling us you've got to do this, and so we're doing what we have to do it. I apologize, but this is not something we're doing to punish anybody. Okay, I hope you believe that. So
Their next meeting is July 25th.
Say it again, I'm
Their
sorry.
next meeting is July 25th,
yeah,
July
so
25th
next
over,
Wednesday,
over there?
over the TOFA building, yeah.
Okay.
right?
Thank you for your time.
7 o'clock.
We were discussing.
Bob Wing.
Yeah, Bob Wing, Township President. I'd like to know who drew up this draft?
This is, as Ms. Gallagher said, it's actually from the DEP. It's a sample of the DEP website, or basically it's.
It's the DEP's model ordinance modified for false.
Why is it, if that ordinance has been written, I believe, because I went and looked at it, I believe it's 1976, why are we just getting to this now? I understand what you're saying, Mr. Harvey, about your projects, but that's a new projects. That's something you're trying to accomplish and get done. Has the township had any problems with homes with on-site sewage? Has it cost the township any money for any issues that people have had?
I don't know of any. We don't have the biggest area we have with an on-lot system would be the Pembroke Crossing. Would be the biggest. I don't
Have you
know of
had any
issues.
complaints about health hazards or issues with online septic systems?
I am not aware of any. No.
Can you understand why these people are upset?
Absolutely, absolutely, I can.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had sewage spilling over in the yards,
sure.
or you had people calling and say, health hazard, that's very understandable.
Yes.
And I can understand this if someone wants to build a new home or a housing project, but these homes have been here 40, 50, 60 years. The septic systems were built by the people who built the homes. How are you going to send anyone out there to inspect something that you have no idea where it's at or how it was built? How are you going to prove it?
That'll be up to the Township of Falls Authority to establish in their rules and
You know,
regulations.
that's passing. All right. So
It's not our decision. It has nothing to do with us, to be honest with you. I mean, it's our ordinance because we're being forced to do this
why-
by DEP. And just like your property
I can
owners,
say- yeah,
wait, hold
the
on.
DEP
There's
for-
property owners up and down all over the area that are trying to sell property or trying to improve their property, but they can't because they're being held hostage by DEP.
I just said, if you're improving
were
property,
being
like
held-
your
I know.
jobs.
What's that?
Just like your projects. They're new projects. They're improving.
No, not all of them are new projects. Some of them are property owners that can't sell their property because nobody's going to buy it because they can't connect to sewer.
Yeah.
And DEP has been holding us hostage, and it's been a good 2-3 years now.
We have a neighbor now that just lost a sale because of this.
Yeah,
He's a single person in the home.
I believe you.
He bought it from a family of 4. That means nothing. I mean, the septic was fine for a family of 4. Unfortunately, he was there by himself. Now he's got to prove that it'll accept a family of 4 again. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I think if I'm the property owner, if I'm buying the house, I want to know that it's going to be able to
I
handle my
agree with
family
you.
floor.
I agree with you 100%.
So it's
Why can't you just look back,
it's no different. It's no different.
But
sort of
if a family of 4 lived there previously,
Right.
unfortunately, he's there by himself. Now he's got to prove that it'll accept a family of 4.
Well, I mean,
that's not even common sense.
But how long was he there? How long has it
15
been?
years.
All right, so it's been 15 years since that system handled a family of 4. How do I know it's still going to do it?
Systems have been there 70 years,
Well,
50 years.
But certainly, we know that systems don't always work forever. I mean, if
I
everyone's
agree
system's
with
been
you.
great,
I agree that.
God bless you. That's
And you
correct.
can't,
That's great.
That's
But-
why I asked if you've had any issues with any of the on-site systems.
No, I don't remember any off the top of my head. Mr. Gray's manager doesn't remember any either. But again, this isn't a case of us saying, hey, we need to pass something because we've had problems. It isn't. That's not the situation. The situation is DEP is saying, in order for you to move forward with, not even just our projects, new projects, existing places you have to do this. And we fought a year and a half, Mr. Clark.
I think
It's been
Mr.
longer than
Over a
that.
year and a half.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
been over a couple of years now.
yeah,
that
I
we've
mean,
been
we've been
arguing
fighting and fighting and fighting and
Is
fighting.
TOFA
about
going to have
this.
to hire a certified sewage inspector?
I don't.
Qualified use.
Yeah,
Qualified
I
is the
don't
word,
know who they
qualified.
have. They may have people on staff that already have the qualifications.
I believe it says in this certified,
Yeah, they may already have somebody who's certified. They may,
and DEP says certified.
and they have an engineering firm. We have an engineering firm that obviously can certify different projects. So they might just utilize somebody from that firm that they already have on staff. They might have an employee who might go out and get that certification. Like we have employees, code enforcement employees who go out
These
and get
people are going to have to pay
certifications.
for them.
It won't be, the fee will be a fee that is going to be, just like if we send an inspector out because you put a new driveway in or because you're putting an addition on your house, we send an inspector out. The fee is going to be something to cover the expenses of that
For
inspector.
something new. This is something that's been there 50 years. And like I said, I don't know how they're going to come out to my home. There's roughly 30, 40 homes in my development, and every one, I guarantee you, has a different septic system, and they're all underground. So how whoever does it, whether TOFA, you, or DEP, going to inspect them and certify them?
Well, but Mr. Wing, that's actually, you could argue that that's a reason why they should be inspected, because shouldn't you know, not you yourself, but, if someone's going to buy a house, they say, well, there's a septic system here. All right, well, where is it? Well, we don't know. Now, I don't know if
But
I'd
you're
buy
not
that
having
house.
problems with it. You say.
But if there is
fix it.
one, I would-
If you don't
yeah.
have a problem with your car, you don't take it to the mechanic and say, hey, fix something.
No, but I got to get inspected every year. But I have to get inspected
to say
every
that
year.
You're not going to ask somebody if their septic system's okay or prove it to me. What are you going to just go on a handshake?
If you're going to sell it, I'll even
That's what
buy
I'm
that.
saying.
If you're
That's
going
what
to
you're
sell
talking
it.
about. That's
But
what
if
you
you got
said.
somebody that's living in that home and planning on staying in that home, Why pay for something you don't need? I can see if you want to put an addition on your house, or if you want to
Mr. Clark,
Sell
does
it.
the DEP require us to do this?
Yes, they are.
Then if they require us to do it, we have to do it. It's black and white
Yeah.
on this side
Can you
of the table.
tell me where I can look it up online and see where they're insistent that you have to do it? I mean, is it something that I can read or see?
There's probably some correspondence back and forth between us and DEP where they're requiring this. It's probably as part of the 537 plan. The comments that we got back from DEP, certainly listed the passing of a sewage management plan as part of one of the requirements of the passing of the 537 plan.
This is not something we're making up.
No, I know you're not making it. I said I went online and I read it, and I think it was 1976 that started, and because I thought your fines of $5,000 a day was kind of outrageous, but then I went on their website and I saw that that's what they have is $500 to $5,000. So I understand that if they have it, you have to have it.
Right.
I think all our questions are now is like,
No, I mean, understand.
that was from 1976, and 2018, you're saying, hey, we got to do this?
Like,
This isn't something we decided we wanted to do. They've been holding us hostage, and many property owners up in the township that are trying to develop their properties. And it's the same thing, like you said, they can't sell their properties because no one's going to buy their properties for
Again,
the
you're
same
saying
reason.
develop properties, and I don't disagree with you for developing properties. I'm talking about somebody that's going to be living in that house for another 30 years.
it's the DEP,
My
and
point
this
was
is not
this.
something. Go ahead, sorry.
My point was this. The only way we can get them to allow us to hook up any kind of sewer was to this 537 plan, and they held us hostage for several years. And like Mr. Clark said, we were going back and forth. Now they want this. Okay, we did everything they wanted. Okay, now we want that. And it's been going on for years and years, literally.
Mr. Dents, one thing I think that needs to be clarified. Even if we weren't under a connection ban, which we have been for some time, even if we weren't under a connection ban, we would be required to update our 537 plan periodically. So even if this wasn't a matter of a connection ban, as part of updating our 537 plan, DEP, and as you know, the update of the 537 plan has also been going on for the last several years. So as part of that process, DEP comes back to us with comments, because even though TOFA handles everything, the 537 planning document is one that is produced by the township. And so in their comments, they have told us there are various things that we have to do. As you know, one of the things that's being discussed but is not currently in front of the board right now is a lateral inspection ordinance, which is also being discussed. There are other things that DEP is making TOFA do. One is an I&I abatement program. That's when they're going to have to reseal all of their manhole covers. They're going to need to make sure that the little mushroom caps that are on everyone's lateral, that there are covers on all of those so stormwater doesn't get into the sewer system. So even if there wasn't this connection ban, DEP would still be requiring us, as part of our 537 plan update, would be requiring us to pass this sewage management ordinance. It's just something that they're insisting that we do. The fact that it is being done in conjunction with the 537 plan and in conjunction with settling this dispute with Bucks County Water and Sewer for the release of connections, it's not that it's a coincidence, but these are both happening at the same time, but it wouldn't prevent us from having to pass this ordinance.
The agreement, the agreement that was made with USX, on that draft, it says for any problems they may have, they can get a master plumber or a utility contractor. Why as homeowners can't we have the same thing? Why do we have to have a township certified inspector?
Because USX has their own sewage treatment plant. USX has their own permit with DEP. USX has their own NPDES permit. USX has it's a separate entity, and that's why the carve-out had to be made for USX, because they are regulated from DEP, separate from everything else that we do, because they have their own sewage treatment plant with their own discharge permit into the Delaware.
Does DEP state that we have to have a certified township inspector instead of a master plumber or a utility contractor?
This is the DEP model ordinance. The only two changes we made to it were the carve-out for USX for all the reasons that I just mentioned, and giving the enforcement authority to TOFA instead of keeping the enforcement authority with the
Does
township.
DEP say that we can't have a master plumber
This
or
is the
utility
D-
contractor
This is
instead of a
this is
certified?
the DEP model ordinance
Yes,
that we
it's the
are
answer.
I'm
required
just
to.
asking.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, it is.
We can't have it? We can't have a certified plumber inspect our system or a
Maybe
utility
TOFA
contractor?
will, maybe, I don't know. You have to ask TOFA that question. If that's good enough for TOFA, maybe. We can't answer that. I don't know what their idea of a certified inspector or a qualified inspector may be.
And I'm sure TOFA is going to be cheaper than a master plumber.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, and just you know, I do have the people, Mr. Wing, so I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. Thank you. That's all right. You know, we're going to have conversations with TOFA. I mean, we've already had them in the process of doing this. In terms of letting them know that we have people very concerned about the permit fees, which I understand, and you know, we know the people on there. And so we know that they're going to be reasonable, and we know that they're going to want to do what's in the best interest of the people of this township, because they live here too. They're township residents too.
I can understand if you have new projects, you're building, adding on to a home, or you know, or you're going to sell it. But to make this for people that are going to be in their home for the next 20, 30 years, I think is a little over the top.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, James Major.
You remember me, right?
Yep.
The Sunshine Law requires you to advertise this for this date. Okay, it was advertised for the 18th. Right, did you guys make that correction in the newspaper?
The ad was indicated that it was this evening, and then there was a second date. The original ad says Tuesday, July 17th, 2018, and unfortunately, lower down in the text, it says July 18th, 2018. But the top of it has the correct date.
In the newspaper?
Yes.
What date was that printed?
July 10th.
So a week ago.
July 2nd?
July 10th.
10th? Okay, all right. It basically just sounds like you don't have any fees. How can you make a decision on something that you don't have set fees with your other entity?
Because we're not the ones doing it. They're the ones who are going to be doing it. So
Okay.
we can't tell them
But
what
you want
fees
to
to
pass
establish.
you want to pass something through this board,
Right.
Okay, without something in writing saying that, okay, well this is what your set fees are going to be. Every septic system is different. Okay, I've acquired a property over on Wheat Chief. Okay, I have a septic system. I know where mine's at. I don't have a problem with replacing mine if I needed to. Okay, but we don't all have the luxury of having that type of money. Now I'm going to step forward for a minute. This is what I got from the tapper. I lost a kidney, and they took down the tapper. I have to pay $13,000 a month for cancer medicine. How am I going to afford those fees if I got to pay for cancer medicine?
Well, I don't know. You know, first off, TOFA is the one setting the fees. Again, we don't tell TOFA what fees to set.
Before you pass this, you need to establish the fees.
All we're doing is authorizing them, is telling them this is, you have to do this, not us. It has nothing to do with us.
So
we're
they're-
required by DEP to pass this ordinance.
Okay, the Sunshine Law requires you to.
No, stop. Wait, let me speak, Mr. Major. We've been through this
this.
before. Okay, let me speak.
Yeah, and we did this before, and look.
You're
what we
right.
got.
Yeah. So we're required by DEP to pass this ordinance, to authorize TOFA to enforce it. It has nothing to do with anybody in this room or in this
Well,
building.
let's talk about DEP.
Go
okay?
ahead, talk about
Look at this
DEP.
lake they're filling in down here off of Penn Valley Road. I've complained about this numerous times. I have pictures of trucks going in there from the guys that remove the oil tanks with contaminated dirt, dumping into that lake.
Mr. Major, it's a private mining operation that we have absolutely no
no
control over.
regulation.
DEP. We know that the DEP rep for Falls Township lives in Falls Township. Come on, it's all political.
I don't really,
it's
I
all-
have,
it's all-
I
it's
have
all
no
political.
idea who
Oh, I
the
know.
DEP rep is.
I've had conversation with them many times.
Okay.
Good. I don't get it. I don't know what you want from us, Mr. Major. You keep saying the same
What we
thing.
want is we want to know what the fees are going to be.
We
If-
have no
if they-
idea. We don't set the fees.
Why don't you guys go to their meeting, okay? Sit down with them, establish the fees, the fee schedule, okay? Because this is what we do before, when we apply for permits. I'm a builder. I come in here and apply for permits.
Right.
I get a paper handed to me.
Right.
It's a fee schedule.
Right. We're the
Okay.
ones who pass that fee schedule every
That's
January.
our ordinance. That's
Correct.
our fee
So
schedule.
before
This is
you
Township.
pass this, why don't you come up with the fee schedule so we can see this, so we know where we're going?
TOFA is a separate legal entity from the five of you. You have no authority to set their fee schedule. You have no authority to direct them to do anything.
Right.
All that the five of you do is each year you appoint a board member to serve on the TOFA board. They are a completely separate legal entity.
I had that written down.
And then-
We'll make
They're a
sure,
completely different entity.
it'll be a reasonable fee. It will be a reasonable fee.
Yeah.
Why aren't you asking, why aren't you inviting Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority? Because they're part of the
it's-
sewer company in
Because
here.
it's Falls Township.
They have nothing
We
to do
empower
with it.
Falls
Nothing to do with
They have
Township.
nothing to do with this.
It's just a question. It's just a question I have written down.
They have nothing to do with this.
Okay.
We
So,
had similar issues with them. If somebody has an
that.
easement on their property, they will come on your property and make you start cutting trees down.
No,
They'll
we-
make you move sheds.
yeah, no, I know
They're
that.
worse.
I know that. I've been
Fence,
through that,
yeah.
all that. Look, I don't mean to bash you guys, okay? But out of all fairness for the citizens, I mean, certainly, you know, this is our government. Why isn't there an established fee schedule, okay? So that we know that it's on the up and up, okay? That's all. That's all I'm asking. That there's a set fee schedule prior to passing this change to chapter, I don't even know what the name of it is. Okay?
The ordinance, yeah.
No, that's all I got.
Okay, all right.
Okay? Thanks.
There was another James Major. Is he speaking too, or no?
That's me. I own 2 properties.
Oh, okay. I didn't. All right. I didn't know if you had a son who was named James. All right. Okay. Raymond Sirianni.
I am Ray. I'm just curious as to why you had this neighborhood come out here for a meeting about this issue if you were unprepared to let us have any information about what's taking place. And you also said you're not TOFA. But as everyone in my neighborhood knows, we get billed for water usage, but the water quality fails every year. And every notice that we get, it says water fail for such and such a reason. And we never get any information about whether or not it's fit to drink or should I give it to my grandson. I have a disease, a brain disease, and they don't know what causes it. I didn't have it before I moved into my home in 2000. But shortly thereafter, I came down with this disease, and I often wondered if it was from the water. And the reason being is I had 2 dogs, large dogs, a Mastiff and a Nikita. And both of them died from rare skin diseases after I moved into my home. And the thing that all these people are here for really was to find out information pertaining to why you had this meeting and had us all come out here. And yet none of you can tell us anything about what we were asked to come out here for. Nobody has no information as to the fees or anything, or how often they'll be out. One thing said at the bottom of the letter that I had, it said they can come out and raise your fees or dictate these fees at will. That means at any time they can do whatever they want. And I know for a fact that my house was one of the first houses built. Right after that section was established, but I know that when I moved into my house and bought it, it was 60 years old, and I've been there 18 years, so it was close to 60. So it's a 78-year-old septic system that the homeowner built. And I have it pumped, I put treatment in it, and we don't have a problem. The neighborhood doesn't have a problem. We have never had a complaint or anything about the neighborhood with stench or smell or anything. And I don't understand if we are all maintaining our properties properly, why now, after 70 years, are you coming in and trying to, looks to me like to get some money?
It's not about money, Mr. Sirianni. As I said, this is not something that that certainly we have nothing to do with in terms of money coming to us in with TOFA. Certainly, we can make suggestions to the board members just to let them know. They make the final decision, but they're not going to make fees that are in any way astronomical or unreasonable. They're going to try and cover their costs. That's what they're going to try and do. And this is something, as we've said before several times, this is something we have to do by law.
I know, I understand the EPA is saying this is required. But why doesn't the EPA have anything to do with our quality of drinking water?
Well, they do. The water is tested. The water has to pass certain, DEP tests.
But it fails every year.
I'm not totally sure. I'm not sure what water. If you're Lower Bucks Joint, are they Lower Bucks Joint over there or no? Yeah. I mean, I get my water from TOFA. And we get reports. If in the bills every once in a while you get whatever, but once a year or something, there's a report in there, or it's referenced online. All the water systems have to do that, and if they're out of compliance, they have to correct that. Otherwise, they're not allowed to be in operation. So, I'm not sure which failures you're referencing. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we got a couple notices one time of having to boil water and stuff for a period.
That happens sometimes after major storms and things like that. Yeah. So, all right.
I'm just wondering why we as a neighborhood were told to come to this meeting when actually we should have been told to go to TOFA.
Well, I mean, TOFA meets next week, so you're more than welcome to go there too. I would encourage you if you're concerned about it.
We just advertised we were having this meeting.
We advertised this is it's already been advertised, so, okay, you're more than welcome to go. I said it's a public meeting, so you're more than welcome to go and make comments there too. So, Mr. Moon, we only allow comments once per agenda.
No. No, all we're doing is authorizing them
Right.
to enforce what the DEP is requiring.
Right. Question was is there any point to going to the TOFA meeting? Because you weren't on the microphone, I'm just repeating your question. That's fine. The question was, is there any point to going to the TOFA meeting if we end up passing this evening? Yeah, because the biggest concern, and I understand the concern, is fees. They're the ones who are going to set fees. Now, they probably won't do it. I don't know if they're ready to do it next week or not. They might not. They might have to sort of investigate what's involved, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't something, you're not going to see inspectors at your house tomorrow. This is, and as Mr. Clark said, most of these have kind of been on the books for a while. We just had to sort of rearrange where it was in our codes, and we had to, empower TOFA to go out and do these kinds of inspections, because they're the agent for this township. Even if you're not getting your water from TOFA, they're still the agent for the township. Because we appoint them. We have no say over Lower Bucks Joint at all. We have no membership on Lower Bucks Joint.
We don't even have representation.
We never
anymore,
have.
Which is a big issue.
So, and Marsville Authority delivers water and takes sewage in different parts of the township as well. We have no say over them either. So, but TOFA we have control, at least some control over in terms of who we appoint, one person every year. So that's, and we do our best to appoint people. They're all Falls Township people. They're people who are
ratepayers.
Yeah, ratepayers. They're people who some of them are retired. Some of them are professionals. Some of them are blue collar. I mean, it's a pretty good variety of people that we put on there. We think anyway, who have the best interests, and it's their own rates too. They control their own rates. They raise the rates and raise them on themselves. So okay. All right. I see Ginny Sirianni too. Is she interested in speaking or? Okay.
First of all, I don't need a microphone.
No, I actually do because
You
it's
have to
recorded.
use the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. It's been.
This is crazy. I couldn't agree more that we are all here tonight, the whole village of Wheat Chief, and you people have done nothing but pass the buck. Okay? I've heard everybody around involved, but you guys, we are here because we need to talk to someone. That's why we all came tonight, to talk. But if you're telling us that you have nothing to do with it, any of you, that it's coming from here or there, that seems like a bunch of bull to me.
It's not. We're being told by the DEP, you have to do this. Not you can do this. Listen, I'm come up very abruptly. I'm not yelling. I'm just a loud person.
He talks loud anyway.
We're being told by the DEP, this isn't something that they said, you can do this, why don't you think about this? You have to do this, is what they told us. Now, this is enforced by TOFA. We have no water authority here. There's no water and sewer department in the township building. There's no water and sewer inspectors. They have a water authority down the road. Now, when you say we control it, all we do is appoint the board members. That's the end of it. It's a separate entity that operates independently.
Don't you represent
We
us?
do,
Thank you.
but that's my point. We have no choice but to enact this tonight. It's not a question of if we do. We have no choice.
And this ordinance that you're passing be modified in any way?
No, it's been we've been back and forth on.
If you had tanks like we showed you in the video here,
Let's-
pump it,
I have no idea. I know nothing about septic tanks. I don't own one.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Sirianni.
Back to me. So all of a sudden, all of us have lived there for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, overnight, unless anybody knows different, now all of a sudden the DEP is saying no.
Yes, that's exactly
I can't
right.
find, no.
Yes,
that's not true.
It's true. It's 100% true.
And we're all supposed to jump through hoops because they say now. Wasn't this approached when the sewer lines were run just on the other side of where we are? Oh, no.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't said then, because
You're right,
the
it wasn't.
township would be responsible.
No, we wouldn't.
Now we'll
We
go
would not be
after the-
responsible.
No.
What do you mean?
You'd be responsible.
Yeah.
Now we would now.
Even then you would.
We would? You mean all the homes that got sewer at the same time as the park did, they got charged a fee?
Yes.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
If they wanted to hook up to it, they did.
Yes.
They wanted to hook up to it. Did they have a choice?
I don't know that.
I don't know. None of us were on the board at that point.
I wasn't around then.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, right. It wasn't around then.
It
Your
wa-
theatrics are, appreciated, but we are required by DEP. We didn't choose to do this. We are being held hostage. We've been negotiating and back and forth for years, literally years.
So
Probably before I
bye-bye
started this
USA.
term. What? By what?
Bye USA. 'Cause
USA?
We can't make no.
Who can't make a
We are
decision?
told. We are being told, not only do our sewers have to be inspected, but they have to be inspected by their people.
Correct.
Bullshit. Why?
Yeah, watch your language, first of all. You can't be cursing
All right.
here. Correct. What do you think they're going to do? Oh, yeah, my so-and-so inspected, it's all good. If you're buying a home, I know that we're not talking about selling a home, but if someone's buying a home, you're not going to take someone's word for it, are you? Correct.
And as was
Township.
This is not an ordinance. The language in this ordinance isn't something that we created. It wasn't something that our solicitors created. It wasn't.
Passing the buck again, buddy.
I'm not passing the buck. This is DEP said this is what you have to do, and this is what we're doing.
The DEP said we have to, and we will.
Yeah.
Correct.
Tell you something. Those of us who are blue collar workers
Yeah, like me and you.
that can't afford
Right.
to pay any extra fee, we're going to lose our house.
What do you think the fee's going to be? How much do you think
We're
the
not-
fee is
we're
going to
not
be?
No,
talking-
because they want a list of the number of people that live in our house. When I get my car inspected, it's a set fee. They don't ask me how many.
It'll be a set fee, ma'am. It'll
gonna
be
be-
a set
It'll be a
fee.
set fee. It
gonna be a
has
set
to
It won't be-
be.
you're-
They're not going to make it up as they go.
Sorry, what?
It'll be a set fee. It won't matter how many people are in your home.
When we do,
What do they need to know?
because the septic
They need to
system
know
has,
that-
How many people it's serving?
right.
Yeah.
Because if you sell your house, Miss Ariani.
Of course. Does any of it make sense to you?
Miss Ariani, if you're living in a house, if it's you, and I'm assuming maybe your husband was the person who was here before? Okay. If the two of you are living in your home and the septic system is fine, okay, and you've been there for 30, 40 years, 20 years, however long, 18 years, he said 18 years, or 15 years. You then sell the house, okay, to a family that has 7 kids, right? How do you know? They don't know, you don't know, nobody knows if that system, which you've never had problems with, great, God bless you. You've never had problems with it. How do we know, how does anybody know if that system going to be able to handle a family with 2 parents and 7 kids? Nobody knows. And so that's the reason for the certification. The advantage you have with having an on-lot system is yours. You don't have to pay any sewage fees. Okay, like I have to pay. Okay, all right. You pay to maintain the tank. You pay for the everything else. Okay, but my system, the system that we're connected to, the water and sewer system, whether it's TOFA or Lower Brooks Joint, whoever it is, that gets inspected. That is maintained constantly, all the time. Yours isn't. Right? And so what's being said now by DEP is saying we have to make sure.
Mine is inspected.
Okay, but they're saying, DEP is saying we have to make sure that all of these are inspected by qualified inspectors. Okay, and I'm assuming because you're responsible homeowners, you have qualified inspectors who come and do it. Okay, because you want to make sure it doesn't fail. But DEP is saying, that we have to make sure that it's somebody from the township. The township, TOFA, has to have somebody who's an inspector, just like we have inspectors here for electrical and plumbing and everything else, fire inspectors. We can't rely on someone who builds a restaurant to say, well, I had a fire inspection done. Well, by who? Because we're going to have people go there and, at that restaurant. So we have to make sure, the DEP is telling us we have to make sure.
That doesn't mean that the person that inspects yours now might not be okay for TOFA. They maybe have a list. Maybe they'll create a list as they go and add your inspector to it. Who knows?
I'm not positive, I'm going to be very honest. I heard a hearsay that a contract has already been drawn up with a specific,
No.
no,
We have, no.
no. Okay, I'll go for that. If you have to have certain specific standards met to have a restaurant, to have a park or whatever.
Right.
Can you talk into the microphone, ma'am?
You have to talk in their mic.
I understand that, but I take responsibility for anyone that comes on my property, okay? You don't have to. I'm a big girl. I'll take that responsibility.
But a
thank
septic
you.
system, if it leaks, doesn't stay on your property. It doesn't leak to your property line and stop. Right?
Okay, the village of Wheat Chief, if my cesspool overflowed or leaked, my neighbors would be right at my fence saying, ooh, we got a problem
Yes.
going on.
Exactly.
We're a
That's
family.
exactly the point.
We would look out after each other.
And that's great.
We don't need anybody
That's
else.
great.
But I can't understand, do you have
But
to
you're-
fill out paperwork with who lives in your house?
When I do my taxes and the census, yes. Right?
To use public sewer?
No,
Well, then why should
because
we?
the system is, again, the system in my house is built to a certain number of EDUs, estimated daily,
System
is
in my
yours.
yard was also built to meet those same standards.
For how many people, though?
For the number of people that live there.
Exactly.
But that's, but how do you know? But you're not always going to be the people living there. It's going to change.
Ma'am, you're going to have to use the mic.
have to
You
use
got
the
to
mic.
use the
You have
mic.
to use the
The
mic.
people that buy the house, if they have any brains, they have an inspection done.
Right.
And the inspector says this won't support them.
Right.
We'll deal with that when it comes. I do now. I probably will have to move because of this added charge out of nowhere.
What do you think the fee is going to be that you're going to have to move? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And
if
how
it-
can I find out? You don't know. Nobody
I mean,
knows.
if it's under, maybe it's $75, maybe it's $100, maybe it's $50.
Come on.
It's not $5,000.
That's ridiculous.
How do you know?
Because I can guarantee you it won't be
They can't
$5,000.
legally charge you
I will guarantee
$5,000
you.
for an inspector to come to your house.
Inspect and
You're
pump.
being silly.
Inspect and
Yes, you
pump.
are.
I don't know about the
What?
pump.
Inspect
What do
and
you pay
pump.
now to get it pumped out?
That's not to say that
It
the
depends on how much is in it.
That won't change, whatever that is.
It won't.
No, I mean, if you need to get it pumped
How
out,
come we have to have one
Because-
of your guys do it?
the DEP is requiring
It
this.
doesn't necessarily mean that. The person that you have do it may be one of their guys. They may be qualified.
Has to be a certified pump
The
haul.
speaker, both of the speakers referenced some
Mr. Clark.
some rumors that they had heard, and the earlier speaker, Mr. Sariani, referenced that some letter went out there saying you can change the fees whenever you want. I'm not sure if this is true, but there may be somebody out there who's spreading some bad information.
And we didn't send any letters out.
We haven't seen it. Somebody said there was a letter that when Mr. Sirianni said there's a letter that went out that says they can raise your fees at any time. They can do this, they can do that. Someone sounds as if they may be trying to get all these residents a little riled up with a lot of misinformation. And but you're going to be able to use, if you're using a certified company now, you're going to be able to continue to use them. There's nobody who's going to come in and say, oh, you have to use this guy who's 10 times more expensive. They have to be certified. But if you're using somebody now who's just some guy with an old truck and we don't know what he does after he pumps out your system, we don't know where he takes it, we don't know if he has the proper certifications, we don't know if he is taking it to a proper place to dispose of it, you're not going to be able to continue to use him.
Okay, but your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Michael Clark, C-L-A-R-K-E.
Okay, so Michael, I just want to make sure I got this right. So if the person that pumps our system is a certified pumper.
And he has a verifiable disposal agreement with wherever he's taking what he's pumping out of your system, you'll be able to continue to use them.
Oh, okay. All right.
So whoever sent that letter, they were just making some stuff up.
Well, I didn't see that, but thank you. I think that's the closest anyone in this room's come to giving any answers.
I think we've given a lot of answers.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe not ones you
Can't hurt.
like, but we've
Yeah.
given a lot of answers.
Okay,
All right.
they are? Answers?
You've gotten a
Okay.
lot of answers tonight, ma'am.
We're going to move on to agenda, those are all the names you have on the list. We're going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is AAA Club Alliance, conditional use 500 to 516 Oxford Valley Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Yes, please. Oh, yeah, just, you can, if you want to just, take it off. Yeah, that's fine, leave it there, thank you. Mr. Gray? Have it or, oh, sorry, this is a conditional use for AAA. This is looking at the shopping center across from the Home Depot shopping center. This is where there's a Comcast and a Verizon store there. Bonefish Grill's in there. Was the Golf Galaxy, I guess, is there? Yeah. So this is a conditional use hearing. Is there a motion to open the conditional use?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. As indicated, this is a conditional use hearing. The applicant is AAA Fairless Hills. The property is located at 520 Oxford Valley Road, Langhorne, PA, 19047. Tax parcel numbers 13-003-035-001 and 22-057-011-001. Township of Falls, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is an application requesting conditional use to operate an automobile service station at the referenced address, which is located in the HC zoning district. This conditional use hearing has been properly advertised. The applicant is represented by attorney Debbie Shulsky. Ms. Shulsky, it is the procedure of the township that we would ask that you give a brief overview of your client's project, that any witnesses who you would intend on calling, that you have them come forward and be sworn, and then if you can briefly summarize their testimony without having them being required to testify at first, and then you and your witnesses will be made available for questions from members of the board and any member of the public who has requested and been granted party status. You can mark any exhibits that you would like, and if you understand that procedure, you can proceed, Ms. Shulsky.
Certainly. Good evening. Deborah Shulsky here on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening.
And also with me this evening is Brett Jarrett, who's on behalf of the applicant, Jay Gain, who's on behalf of the shopping center, the owner of the property, and Andrew Zerby, who's our site civil designer. And I appreciate Mr. Clark's introduction, and we were intending to proceed with what I call an offer of proof as well, whereby we would swear in the witnesses, and I would briefly summarize what their testimony would be. Obviously, they would affirm it as their own, and then the board members could certainly ask any direct questions that they may have. Before we get into that, if I may approach the board just to hand out some pre-marked exhibits for you.
Oh, excellent.
Do you want to leave,
Thank you.
leave 2 for our other friends? We'll make sure they get them. Okay, thanks.
Well done.
Cards too for that notice. I should have enough for.
Thank you. One to the court reporter and one to this guy over here.
Right, and should we swear everyone in at the same time? And the first two witnesses that I would summarize are essentially fact witnesses. The first one is Mr. Jay Gain, and he would testify that he's authorized agent on behalf of the owner of the shopping center, which is 69th Street Properties LP, and that he's authorized to testify here this evening on their behalf. He would also testify that the applicant is authorized to proceed with the application pursuant to a lease agreement, which is marked in your package as Exhibit A2, and that the applicant is authorized to restripe certain parking spaces from 10 by 20 to 9 by 18, which I'll be summarizing a little bit more underneath the site designer's testimony. And that would essentially summarize Mr. Gaines' testimony. Do you affirm that as your own? Do you have any corrections or additions? The second witness that I would summarize is Brett Jarrett, and he would testify that he's the representative of the applicant, AAA Club Alliance, and that is authorized to testify on its behalf. He would testify that the applicant's proposing to retrofit the former Ethan Allen Furniture Building, which is approximately 14,903 square feet in size, for purposes of a AAA car care center. As Mr. Clark indicated, the application before you tonight obviously is for conditional use approval to permit an automobile service station use on the property pursuant to Section 209-23D2 of the zoning ordinance. Important to note that the proposed use does not involve the sale or dispense of gasoline at this time. The car center will have an office component which will sell insurance and travel items such as vacation packages, maps, luggages, et cetera. Very important at this time of the year, obviously. The office component will include tag, title, and DMV functions. In addition, the car center will perform expert diagnostics, state inspections, repairs, and maintenance, which would include air conditioning and cooling, battery replacement, electrical work, tires, tune-ups, maintenance, oil filters, those types of services. The car center will be open 7 days a week. The hours Monday through Friday will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday 10 o'clock a.m. to 4 p.m., which we think is complementary to the other existing uses in that shopping center. Mr. Jarrett would also describe the architectural facade of the proposed building, which is depicted on Exhibit A8, an elevation plan that's in your package. And that would essentially summarize Mr. Jarrett's testimony. Do you affirm that as your own? I do. Do you have any corrections or additions? I do not. And then the third and final witness that we would offer would be as an expert witness as our site civil designer, Andrew Zerby, with the firm of D.F. Howe. And he would testify as to his credentials, which are shown on his CV, marked as Exhibit A9 in your package. He would further testify that his office prepared the conditional use plan, which is marked as Exhibit A7, consisting of 3 sheets in your package, and that those plans accurately depict what's being proposed this evening. In addition, Exhibit A7 includes a vehicle turning plan as a result of a comment from one of the various review letters. The subject property, just by way of very brief background, obtained variance relief from the Falls Township Zoning Hearing Board in July of 2008 to permit a maximum impervious surface ratio of 74.41%, which is in excess of the maximum permitted coverage area of 70% allowed by the Township ordinance. In addition, the property owner at that time had obtained a variance from Section 209.42H11 to allow reduction in the number of parking spaces from the required amount of 379 spaces to 295 parking spaces. AAA Mid-Atlantic proceeded forward in this application in reliance on that relief that was previously granted, and that is the Zoning Hearing Board decision is also marked in the exhibit package. In converting a portion of the shopping center, the applicant is going to have to relocate 11 parking spaces within the existing center by restriping certain portions of the shopping center, and will still be compliant with the relief that was previously granted by the Zoning Hearing Board. Those spaces to be restriped are depicted on one of the plans that's marked with the conditional use plans as Exhibit A7. As I noted earlier, the owner of the center is here this evening as well and has consented that those various restriping can be done on the subject property. Mr. Zerby would also testify that he received a will serve letter from the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority, which is depicted on Exhibit A4. He would further testify that he reviewed a number of the Township Consultant Professional Review Letters, which are all marked in the package as Exhibit A3, and that generally most of those letters are will compliant, in fact, have already been addressed in the plans that have been submitted as part of your package this evening. There are just a few clarifications that I wanted to go over real quickly with respect to those letters. One, with respect to the Remington and Vernick letter, there was a comment about a traffic impact study, and we've had discussions with the township solicitor. Obviously, they can confirm this as well, but it's our understanding that they've agreed that this is since a redevelopment of an existing center with very minimum site improvements other than the restriping and some additional landscaping, that a traffic impact study is not required. In that same letter, there was a comment about the parking stalls being 10 by 20. There's an inconsistency between your subdivision land development ordinance and the zoning ordinance, which requires 9 by 18. So we believe the zoning ordinance would prevail, and the spaces can be 9 by 18. And then lastly, in the Vernick letter, Remington and Vernick letter, there was a comment about more than 20 parking spaces. That's already an existing condition on the site that's not being further increased. So our position would be that that's an existing nonconformity that the applicant has the ability to proceed with. And then the only other clarification would be with respect to the shade tree letter. We were not entirely clear as to how much additional landscaping they were looking for. We did show some additional landscaping on the plan that is currently part of the package. However, again, this is an existing building. We're not changing the site, and also it backs up to the railroad station. So there's already existing vegetation there to begin with, but we did add some additional screening in that area on the corner of the property. So hopefully, we believe that covers the spirit and intent of the Shade Tree Commission letter. Also wanted to note that the Planning Commission's recommended approval with conditions at their June 26 meeting. And then lastly, it's our belief, and the witness would testify, that the proposed automobile service station use meets the applicable zoning ordinance requirements set forth in 20923, 20950 F1A through F, as well as 20950G 1 through 4. And again, important to note, a number of those standards are relating to a dispense of gasoline, which is not proposed as part of this application at this time. So a lot of those standards aren't relevant to this particular application. And also, since this is a redevelopment of an existing site and not a new raw land site, there's a number of standards that wouldn't apply as well. But as to the ones that do apply, the applicant would testify that it meets those applicable standards. And that would essentially summarize Mr. Zerbe's testimony. Do you affirm that as your own? Do you have any corrections or additions? And that would conclude my summary, and certainly we are happy to answer any questions that the board or your consultants may have.
Okay. Any questions from the board for any, either Ms. Shulsky or any of her witnesses?
No.
So the rear of the building is where the bays are going to be?
That's right.
No, the side, the shaded area.
It said rear in here.
Mr.
Okay,
Zerbe?
yeah.
Probably.
You have to grab a microphone.
Yeah, if you're going to speak, you just take one with you. Thank you.
The bays would be on the northern end of the shopping center. And as you can see, there is a shaded area that is the paved access drive to those bays.
Yeah.
Bless you.
I think one of your exhibits had it as a rear. That's why I was curious. The elevation. The rear means side.
No, it was, I looked at that too. I think it's just confusing the way it's labeled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I'm curious about one of your requests, 20950 G2. It has to do with reducing sidewalk width, I guess.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that request?
Yeah, that's in the Jones Engineering Associates letter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Originally, we had an area that's currently paved and a concrete sidewalk area that was being reduced to 5-foot wide sidewalks, but per that letter, we have revised it so that they're now 6 feet wide.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. The fire marshal did have in his letter a question about the truck turning radius, and I think I think I saw your response in here. You're feeling as there doesn't need to be a new truck turning radius plan because you really aren't changing the overall footprint of the building. So the previous truck turning radius from whenever this building was built is still valid.
Correct. Essentially, they were asking if, in addition, there was another comment saying that the fire lanes should be preserved. We are maintaining the adequate widths for that. Those comments mostly pertained when we were proposing parallel parking in the rear of the building, which would have made it quite difficult, honestly, to facilitate a fire truck or other large trucks. So since we've revised our layout, we feel that that is no longer necessary.
Okay.
But we have provided a vehicle turning template per the Jones Engineering Associate letter, which addresses the turning within the paved access drive area.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Clark, does the existing non-conforming apply, as stated?
Regarding the fire marshal's letter?
No, I think it was the parking spaces.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thanks.
I had a question for I apologize, Jarrett? Is it Mr. Jarrett? Okay. Listening to Ms. Shulsky's summary of the kinds of activities that are going to be at this site, I'm assuming then that the AAA office that's sort of down the road will be moving to this instead, or you're not going to have two of them?
That is correct. They will be consolidated into this operation.
Okay. Okay.
So your new office will have the driver's license services there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. That was it. That's all I had. Mr. Sullivan, any questions from you?
I have one question. You don't intend to apply for land development approval for this project, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, but you will be applying for a township earth disturbance permit because of your disturbance of the ground for your new plantings and such.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Torres.
Okay. Mr. Clark, Ms. Gallagher?
No questions.
Nothing? Okay. Okay.
We would just request that the board accept our exhibits into the record.
Okay.
They'll be accepted.
So accepted. We'll open for public comment. We'll close the...
We should ask if anyone is seeking party status in this matter.
Right, sorry. Okay, is anyone seeking party status in this conditional use hearing? I see no hands.
Close the
Okay,
hearing
so
over.
is there a motion to close the conditional use hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll have public comment. Any public comment needed? See one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
I just got concerned that,
Practice for you first.
I'm sorry, my name is Jason Fittish in Falls Township.
He
He's
doesn't
not
need to be
seeking-
sworn in. This is just
Yeah, he's not
public
seeking
comment.
party status.
So I've got a question. You're shrinking
You
the
do
park.
need to give your name and address.
Sorry. Jason Fittish, 459 Austin Drive. FIDISHUN. So I visit the shopping center numerous times. It's always busy. Are you saying you're going to shrink it by 100 parking spots?
No.
No, it was already shrunk by 100.
There will be the same number of parking spaces as originally were.
Okay, so it's already busy. There's a lot of cars there all the time. Parking's a problem, but now you're going to store cars there because they're not going to get on every day with a repair garage. And then the photo center brings in approximately 100 cars per day. That's going to make that a parking nightmare.
You have to use the microphone if you're going to respond, sir. Mr. Zerbe.
Well, again, this is public comment. The gentleman did not seek party status, so technically,
Right.
we
But I
should
just-
not be questioning the witnesses. I know that the normal way we do it, we let the witnesses answer if there's some...
That's fine. I'm just concerned about parking up there. I already know it's a
Understood.
nightmare. I know the photo center can bring in up to 100 cars per day. I know that as a garage, cars and repairs aren't going to be done instantly. They're going to sit for days or days until they get the parts done, and it's already a parking nightmare. So depending on how many bays they're putting in and what they're doing, you're going to create a real parking nightmare up there.
We have a witness who can respond briefly if the board is interested.
Sure.
Vehicles will not be maintained overnight. If cars do require a next day service, they will be housed inside the building. We do not house cars outside the building waiting for service overnight.
Okay. All right. Any other public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so matter before the board is to whether or not to grant conditional use to AAA Club Alliance for 516 Oxford Valley Road. Board has heard from the applicant, professionals, as well as public comment. Any final questions or comments?
No.
No? Is there a motion then?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Item 3, obviously, we heard a lot about during our public comment. Let's consider adopting ordinance establishing sewer management program and amending ordinance chapter 184, which is sewers and water plan. Comments or questions from board members for Mr. Clark or Ms. Gallagher or Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, just curious if there was a modification to this going, in the future, or can there be if need be? How would that work?
If DEP either requires or allows any modifications, it would have to be done via a future ordinance amendment.
And then a 537 resubmission possibly, or?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
But it's highly unlikely that if, once the 537 plan gets done, it's probably going to be another 15 or 20 years before we'll update our 537 plan again.
Got it.
We don't anticipate the level of development in the township which would require our 537 plan to be updated again for probably 15 to 20 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. We had some members who, the public who were here who wanted to make comment and asked us to delay to now. Do they still wish to speak or, excuse me, ask questions now? Is there anybody that still wishes to speak? Okay. Motion to open public comment?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, just ask you to state your name and your address, please.
Dan Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T, 1002 Reed Avenue. I just have a question. The DEP is making you put this in, and that's essentially to allow new businesses to tie into sewers.
Well,
but
that's kind of the hammer they're holding over us. I mean, the overall goal was to make sure that on-site septic systems are safe. That's what they want to do. They're basically telling us that we're not doing enough to make sure that's happening, and so they're telling us we have to pass this. Otherwise, they're not going to give us.
So
Right.
they're able to do that and hold that over to you.
Yes.
So then later on down the line, they could come and say, well, we don't like on-site sewer systems at all, so
Yes.
we want you to tie in. And then that all is going to be put down on us to pay for that tie-in and everything else.
Yes,
That was discussed.
And
They
yes.
wanted to do that at one point.
Yes, they did.
And there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, it's,
We
the DEP is,
Yeah, if they insist it happens, there's not a lot. I mean, years ago they were going to force us to put a main down. Is it Pennsylvania Avenue? No, Pennsylvania Avenue. Old Bristol Pike, which would have forced all of the manufactured homes. Penwood Crossing.
Sure.
Every single one of those would have had to been connected, and the way they calculate connections, they don't calculate that, Penwood Crossing is one entity, so that's one connection. No. Every single one of those would have counted. And Mr. Clark actually works a tremendous amount with water and sewer authorities in other parts of this area of the state. The typical connection fee, Mr. Clark, for somebody connecting to a brand new main?
Well, there will be two different, technically there'll be three different charges. One will be the cost, the assessment for actually the sewer line running down the street. And the assessment is always based on the cost of the project divided by the number of properties that are involved. The second fee is a tapping fee to tap into the system. And in Lower Bucks County, tapping fees range anywhere from, I think, around $3,500 all the way to about $15,000. And then the third fee, of course, would be most of these on-lot systems, the pipe from their sanitary runs out the back of their property, and the third fee would be then bringing that pipe all the way around the front of the building to connect to the sewer main out in the street. So when private sewers go in, there are those three separate fees. DEP has, within the last 5 years, required Northampton Township to sewer an area of Northampton Township known as the west end of Northampton. That was litigation that went on between DEP, the homeowners, and Northampton Township for about 4 or 5 years. It's still, in some ways, still ongoing. But when DEP requires you to sewer, it's normally because there are a number of failing on-lot systems, and then you're going to be required to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, that's obviously the more complicated answer, but I want to make sure that was clear, that yes, they, short answer is yes, they can force us to do it.
Yes, it's very expensive.
That's what you would face if they forced us to do it.
And I feel like this is just the start of that. You passing this is going to allow them to come in and say, oh, we can check this every year until we get enough failing systems that we can say that we need to put sewer in here. When it's not the case, I don't think you guys need to put it in there. I just ask that you think about that before you pass this ordinance.
Yeah.
I understand that they have your hands tied, but you're now putting all of that back on us because of this.
Well, they could force us to do it. I think even if we didn't pass this, they could come through and say, well, how do we know they're not failing, so do this. You know, we fought them off successfully years ago, simply
Not
because,
that many years ago.
yeah, not that many years ago, with that project, which would have just been, I mean, you literally would have, Penwood Crossing would have had to close, isn't it? You would not have had probably any of those manufactured homes down there, because it would have been way too expensive.
And then I guess who should we contact to try and fight anything of that nature down the line?
Everyone. Not kidding.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like representatives, like who?
All of them. State senators,
state representatives.
everybody.
Yeah, this isn't a Congress. This is state representative, state senator.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? All right. Mr. Wing, we don't typically allow double dips here, but I'll let you go. There's a woman in the back who wants to speak too, so I'm just going to ask you to.
I appreciate it. Is there any chance that instead of having an inspection every year, it could be done every 3 years when the mandatory pumping is to be done?
I don't know.
I think it's up to TOFA to determine. We're just kind of skimming through it. A schedule of routine inspections may be established to assure proper functioning. So, I mean, it's basically saying that within a year of us passing this, TOFA has to go through and inspect.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they're going to do it every year.
But after that, they can decide, okay, we're going to do this it might be something they determine by age of the system. If the system's older, they might do it more often.
According to the draft, it's yearly. If I
don't think so.
No,
I
it
think
has to be done within the first year. and
Right.
then
The
first year,
it
correct.
has to be routine
Yeah.
after that.
Section
So TOFA
89E.
will need to establish.
I'll look it up when I sit back down.
That's right. That's right.
89E is where it's
Yeah,
at.
89E.
What is it?
89.
E.
89 is inspections. You can go down to E.
Yeah, that's. I'll look at this when I sit back
Yeah,
down.
that's fine.
But if the board could find it, if they could, like I said, after that initial inspection, if they could set it up so it wouldn't have to be inspected for every 3 years for when the 3-year pumping, it would help.
If I was going to their meeting and asking them, I'd be going for 5 years, is what I would start. Start high. How come you want them to do it every 5 years if you go down there and have a discussion with them? They're reasonable people.
And Mr. Dents and board members, I think it's important to note that you were reading D, which says, an initial inspection shall be conducted by an authorized agent within 1 year of the effective date of this ordinance for the purpose of determining the type and functional status of each sewage disposal system in the sewage management district. A written report shall be furnished to the owner of each property inspected, and a copy of said report shall be maintained in the authority records. E says, a schedule of routine inspections may be established to assure the proper functioning of the sewage systems in the sewage management district.
Yeah, May doesn't even mean they're going to do it. Just
We have it done every 5 years.
no, they may do it. They may say they don't even want to do it. That doesn't mean that TOFA wants to do this. They might not have the manpower. They're not going to be doing this for money. They're not going to make money off of you doing this. It's going to be a more, they're probably strapped as it is already. So if you go to them, they may say that they're going to do it the one time and then be done with it until you sell the house.
So
The
Should our
word
first
may,
step be
they may
TOFA?
do it, they may not do it.
should our first step be TOFA or the DEP?
TOFA.
TOFA, yeah.
You're not going to get anywhere with the DEP.
And that meeting on the 25th is when that
Yeah,
will be
they're
discussed?
reasonable people.
Well, I don't know if they might not discuss this, but they might have public, and we're going to.
I hear you.
We'll let them know you're coming.
Yeah, we're going to make sure.
We'll let them
yeah.
know you're coming, yeah.
We'll tell them to set out,
Would you like me on your side?
tell
Would
them
you
set
like
out
me on the
extra
board?
chairs.
We're all on the same side. Nobody's trying to, squeeze you or make money off you. I know that how it seems. And I know this may sound ignorant, but we were surprised to see this crowd tonight. We had no idea that this was such a big issue. We didn't receive a single message or an email or anything.
Neither did we.
Yeah, so we didn't, we thought this was something routine. We didn't know this was such a big deal. And, yeah, there's a lot of language in here that's written by lawyers, and we're not lawyers. I'm an electrician. So, when you would read words like may, they may do it, they may not do it. That doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Right. And just out of curiosity, Mr. Wayne, because again, I don't have any experience with on-site systems. Do you get yours inspected at all? I mean, because I know Ms. Suriani was here,
no.
said, "Oh, I get mine
No,
inspected."
No.
Okay,
It's
I was
not
just curious.
inspected.
I don't know if
And
it's something.
I'd be willing to say
did out
no
of-
one here gets it inspected.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
You know if you start having a backup in your home,
Right.
you have a problem.
Right.
If you do have a problem, you take care of it.
Sure.
Yeah,
you have to.
You get a plumber or whoever to find out whether it's just the blockage that somebody threw in your toilet
Right.
by accident, or if your system isn't working properly, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. A master plumber may be certified to do the inspection, for all we know. I mean, it may not be somebody that they're going to pick. They're not going to tell you who you have to hire, that's for sure.
That's why I asked if a plumber could do
I don't
it.
know the answer to that.
When it says, the one draft says a township certified sewage inspector. And that was my question.
But if a licensed plumber is able to certify that, then they can't say no to your licensed plumber.
Right. Yeah, like for example, just for something we deal with every year is wreckers, basically. So if there's an accident in Falls Township, 2 cars get in an accident, we call tow trucks. The police will call tow trucks. They take the vehicles away. There are wreckers who are on our list of approved wreckers. Okay, that's the list our police officers work off of. Actually, it comes from Doylestown, from the 911 center. But we have to certify those wreckers every year. Every year they have to submit information about insurance and equipment, everything else, the licensing, the drivers, everything. If they don't meet up to snuff, they don't get on the list.
Are any pumpers
that could
certified
be-
in Falls Township today?
Any what?
Are any pumpers certified in
No
Falls
idea.
Township today?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't. Yeah, you're asking the wrong guys.
I don't think they have
mean,
certification.
I mean, I don't know if your neighbors, if people have.
Well, I know,
pumpers,
like-
but-
I don't even know who certifies them.
Yeah.
Contractors and stuff have to have the township approval.
Yeah, we don't.
I didn't know if pumpers also had to go
No.
through the township
No,
to
they
get
do not.
approval to
No, the
do
only-
business in the township.
Yeah, the only thing they would get, the only thing they'd have to do from us is if they're operating a
town.
business in the township, they'd have to get a business license.
Correct.
But that would be it. We wouldn't certify, what equipment they have, qualifications, training. We don't do that.
No. Thank you
Yeah.
for your information.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Melanie Talbert, 1616 Bristol Pike, and I'm neighbors of all these folks back here. This is the only letter I've received, this correction letter, my family and I, so this was just yesterday or the day before, so we're here. I'm just wondering, I'm hearing people talk of a different letter that was maybe mailed, or you guys aren't familiar with
We
that?
mailed that
We
letter.
didn't send that. So we don't know where that came from.
Sorry, I did that.
Oh, well, thank
Okay.
you. All right,
sent out a letter
okay.
to the people, and it had the wrong date on it, had the date of the 18th.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And then we saw it was corrected in the newspaper.
Okay.
It was the 17th.
Okay. All right.
And I did that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. And I just,
Did you use the logo with permission? I'm only kidding.
so I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for everybody, how hard we've worked to maintain our septics, and we do take this very personally.
Sure.
So, and I respect all this DEP information. I'm confused why TOFA never was on board or concerned about us in the past. But my bigger concern right now is that all the information that we're asking about now, you're surprised there's this many people, but we need more information. We'd like more information. I just wondered if TOFA will be able to organize their thoughts and on our needs of what information we need, so we're not wasting our time going to this meeting that you're talking about. Is there some way you can relay that to them?
We'll be relaying it to them.
Yeah.
They won't be as blindsided as we were.
Right. Okay. And I mean, my husband and I have often talked, and I know not everyone has that money, neither do we right now, but how easily or how much easier our lives would have been all these years had we been tied in. And obviously, you're talking about the costs that are a little higher than we thought.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wondered if the township ever really considered us. I feel like we're just buried down there, and now we've been slammed with this information, right? Am I right? We're all feeling the same way. So I'm just letting you know the tone. And we're citizens. We all work in the township, and we're, taxpayers, of course.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your time, and I think that was it.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Yeah, we, none of us, the only person who was here when the park went in, because people have referenced the line that went down, Mill Creek for the park. Mr. Gray was the finance director at the time, so he wasn't really, he had his nose in the books with a calculator and a slide rule or something, but he wasn't really focused on that aspect of it. None of us were on the board. The engineer, solicitor, none of us were here. We're talking something that happened in 1998, 99. I don't know at the time if the board members then considered, well, if we're running this line, if we run it down Reed, if we run it further down toward Bristol Pike, if we do this or that, the DEP may have said, well, since you did that, make all these people tie in now. And maybe that's why they didn't do it. Because they realized, and this is something I was just talking to a supervisor in Doylestown Township a few weeks ago about this kind of issue, because they're having the same issue. They're having because the houses there are much bigger and much further from the road. You're talking about $20,000 just to run a line from the street up to the house for people. It wouldn't be that much clearly because, the houses on Reed are way, way closer to the street, even if that ever happened. But still, you're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's crushing. And she's getting bombarded with people angry about, I have to put all this money out, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a situation, as Mr. Clark said, it's happening in a lot of places. I don't know, in DEP's mind, maybe they just don't like the on-lot systems, just nervous about them. In terms of not being as regulated, not being as inspected, and that's why they're sort of clamping down on this, and it's just our turn to get clamped down on. And obviously, you're feeling the brunt of it, and I apologize for that. But as Mr. Rocco said, we've all said it. TOFA is not going to be, kind of licking their chops and rubbing their hands together, thinking, okay, now we'll all get to, drive around our Ferraris or something. That's not what. This is not a cash cow for them. They're gonna, they're gonna look for ways to do this economically. They're gonna want to be, good public servants, and we put them on there because we think they are. And if we don't think they're good public servants, then we don't put them on. But I just want to say that. I do see another hand up here, ma'am. Yeah. Sure.
Shara Begley, 9145 Mill Creek. I respect and enjoy where I live, and I give you guys credit. I'm a little disappointed, though, because I would think with passing an ordinance or revising an ordinance because you're being told, and it's now down to the wire because you are being held captive or hostage, as you had said, we are now taken by surprise. I am disappointed that between you, the Township Water Authority, have not had more facts. You're surprised about the turnout. Doesn't Falls Township, you guys know how many people have on-site septic systems? That should be something that you should have known if you're passing an ordinance. Like anything else, I realize you put a public notice out in a newspaper. How many people get the newspaper anymore, first of all?
If we weren't required by law to do it, you're
I
right.
understand.
No, if we weren't required, we wouldn't have done it at all.
I
You're right.
understand. I respect that. You're going by what you do. But as times change, just as the DEP is changing what their requirements are, you have to understand there's people out there that are working 9 to 5. We are here because we care. Understand nobody's looking to maybe make a lot of money from us, but you didn't come prepared with the answers that your citizens needed based on the ordinance that you're being held hostage on, so other businesses can tie in to a water treatment or a sewer treatment. You know, this is all legal jargon that we're supposed to interpret, which somebody did. We're concerned, and you have no answers. You're telling, I would think that the water authority and the Township of Falls that we reside in and pay taxes to should have been together first before this even came up to be passed, to give us the answers that we needed so we could be well informed. We're being told, I don't know, we're being held hostage, people can't sell their homes. I have to disagree. My son just bought a house in Falls Township that has on-site sewer system, so I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's more difficult for people to sell their homes with on-site. However, it's not possible. So, with that being said, I'm sorry that we all surprised you,
You don't have
but
the
you
answer.
shouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're
Shame on you.
Yeah,
you're right.
No, you're right.
And shame on you. Because with anything else, I got a notice, oh, well, Mill Creek Tavern wants to put up a neon sign. If you have any objections to that, please come to a public hearing. We should have been notified the same way by letter. I know it's a law, you have to just put in the newspaper, but we're in 2018. Who gets the newspaper anymore?
Yeah, I don't.
And if it wasn't for the gentleman back there to send out a letter and put it in our mailboxes with the Falls Township logo, half of us wouldn't have been here. Because I would much rather be at home. So I applaud you, but I really am disappointed.
You're right.
You should have had more answers.
And I do apologize for the notification part. You're right. You know, in terms of the fees, you know, we certainly, you know.
It should have been a discussion you had prior to this meeting. You should have come prepared, and you didn't. And that's why you're getting beat up
You're
there.
right. You're right.
So I think you need to do a better job with that.
The Republic comment. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Fran Bedakovich, and I live on Reed Avenue in Morrisville. And my question is to the person who's from the DEP.
There's nobody here from the DEP.
No one's here?
No.
Okay.
Nobody's here from the DEP.
Because that is my question. I've lived in my residence 14 years, and if the DEP is so concerned about my septic system, I've never met anybody. They haven't been to my door. They haven't been to my property. I take care of my property. I get my septic pumped every year. I don't need to because I live there alone right now. But I'm concerned because all of our neighbors are on septic. I don't want to have a problem, so I prevent a problem. I get my septic pumped every year, faithfully. I use Ridex. I do everything I'm supposed to do. And now you're telling me that I'm going to be penalized because the DEP is saying you have to do this. I've followed all the rules. I've done everything I can to keep my property safe. And now I'm going to be penalized by having a certified inspector. He's going to come on my property whenever they want to inspect it. Are they going to come after I do a lot of laundry where my septic goes up? That's not fair to me. And it's not fair to any of my neighbors either. Are they going to come the day after a huge rainstorm? That's not fair to us.
Well, and I think first, the fact that you're getting it pumped every year, I mean, this ordinance is telling you don't have to do that. It's only every 3 years. So in that sense, you're actually going beyond what the ordinance is asking you to do.
I'm being proactive, though.
I know, and that's great. And that's actually what they want. They want people to be proactive, and they want people to be responsible, and you obviously are.
But I'm sure all my neighbors are too, because
they might be. In which case, this ordinance isn't really changing anything for them. It doesn't really add to anything they have to do. The inspection, when the inspector's going to come around at some point in the next year to take a look and just check out your system, note what kind of system it is, how big it is, et cetera, where is it, just so they know. And then they might not come out again for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
It's highly unlikely he's going to be like the dog catcher, just randomly just showing up. I mean, he's going to tell you when he's coming. He's not going to just walk on your property and start inspecting.
Right.
I don't think that's legal, is it?
Regulatory agencies have the right to enter onto your property.
But DEP,
right.
but the DEP's not doing
the
it.
DEP's empowered. The DEP
Right.
expects.
He can do it now if they want to, even
Yeah.
without this ordinance.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
but
what
they're saying.
So if it's not going to just show up and walk on your property unannounced and start inspecting stuff.
And the reason, Ms. Matakevich, you haven't seen anybody from DEP is because they're expecting the local entities to do the inspections for things like that, to follow DEP regulations. And that's kind of what they're going to be doing now. And again, I wouldn't, I mean, obviously we know it is something new. And the previous speaker was right. We did a bad job of rolling this out, and I apologize for that. And certainly it would have been an easier, smoother ride if we had done a better job. But we also want to make sure that people aren't sort of going to sort of, DEFCON 5 and understand the reason that, people go there automatically. This is something that we fully expect and TOFA to be very, very, as I said before, reasonable about, in terms of doing the inspections when they need to. If you're already getting pumped out by somebody, by a certified contractor, then you keep using them. I mean, that doesn't change. If you want to keep doing it every year, you can. But if you only do it every 2 years, fine. Do it every 3 years, you're still within the law. And so in that sense, the impact for you or anybody else that's doing it is really going to be very, very minimal. And the inspections may actually find something that maybe before something happens, the inspector says, "Hey, you get a problem here. You might have to fix this." It's like getting a car inspected, or you don't want to necessarily wait till all of a sudden you're belching black smoke and destroying the ozone layer by yourself. I mean, you want somebody to up front say, "Hey, look, something's wrong here. Your brakes are in bad shape. You got to get new tires," before something happens, before it leaks and comes on your property or yours goes on somebody else's property. So, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I propose you put this on the table for another meeting, if you can get your facts, so we can have a little bit more information and not pass this ordinance tonight. I think that's only fair.
Is there a timeline from DEP? We have the 537 we have to do, and this is part of the 537?
Yes. DEP won't act on the 537 plan until this is passed.
Yeah.
DEP won't act on connections until this is passed.
Yeah.
Well, your failure to prepare your citizens.
And respectfully, I don't want to argue with members of the public, but we've answered the questions that people have had. We've provided them with the information. You are giving the authority to TOFA to do the inspections. TOFA will have to set what their fees will be. The ordinance lays out what they have to do. There's some misconception here about how many times they're going to have to pump and haul. We had somebody coming up and respectfully saying, they're going to have to inspect every year. They're not. They're going to do an initial inspection within a year. So there is a catalog of all of the systems in there, and then a routine inspection may be established. So I think we've provided the information to members of the
The
public.
fees are the things obviously people are worried about, and I understand that. I understand why people are worried about the fees.
TOFA still
but-
has to enact. Just because it says we passed this tonight doesn't mean that they're going to start inspecting this week.
Right.
They have to pass their own rate schedule and everything else.
Yeah,
Because it's not ours to do, as we've said.
yeah, Mr. Major had his hand up too, so.
So what happens to the township?
You have to wait till you have to get the thing.
What happens to the township if you don't pass this tonight? You're saying you're being held captive. Is this because of the new businesses that want to connect with the regular sewers? They're telling you we're not going to. So
That's part of. That's
so
a,
we're
that's
being
a very,
held
very,
captive.
That's a very big
we're,
part of it.
we're being held captive. I'm sorry. We're being held captive. Okay. In a sense, where it's going to cost us more fees. Because new businesses like the St. Joe's project, I'm assuming that could be one.
That's not one of them, actually.
All right, well, okay. I don't know what businesses are trying to connect.
There's a few out here on some of the, there's some redevelopment that's going to happen, some new businesses coming out
I'm a
here.
builder.
Just as an
I've
example.
heard of things that have been going on where they're not allowing people to connect on that. So, but why take it out on the septic portion of it? They're sewer, we're septic. I mean, like Mrs. Begley had said, make total sense. Why not chair this for another couple meetings until your TOFA gets some kind of fee schedule, just so that we know what we're up against.
So even if we tabled it, if we tabled it, they come up with a fee schedule, you may not like it.
Well, they can't do anything until we do
may
this.
not.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll work with them. Like I said, it will be reasonable. It's not going to be excessive. It won't be once a year. It won't be,
Okay.
How much does it cost for a UNO inspection in Falls Township?
For what?
A use and occupancy.
Permit.
$50.
Right. So I
50,
can't see it being
$75,
more than
yeah.
that.
No, you guys, your fees have come down in
No,
a
I
lot
know,
of,
but
a
I
lot of
can't
things.
see them. This isn't something they even want to do, I'm sure. I mean, they probably don't even have the manpower to really do this. I mean, it'll be a one-time inspection, and then who knows yet?
Well, this is new to me. I mean, I don't even live on the lot yet that where I'm building the house. Okay, and there's the septic there. But I do want to share some more information that there's a betterment program that if you have a problem with your septic, that it's through the state that you can get up to $6,000 to help you repair that. Okay. That was information that I got in the last couple of days. And this other gentleman had a question about did he have to connect? I believe if you're not within 150 feet of a connection, you do not have to connect. I believe that's what the rule is. I could be wrong on that because when I bought my property on Wheat Chief, I bought the property right behind the park. And I was told that I did not have to connect because the pump house is all the way over the other side, and I'm 150 feet. Now I have a well for water, so I don't have to connect.
Right. You got a whole lake right there.
Yeah. Well, the water's good. Yeah. So that was it. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Any other hands? Okay, motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're looking at ordinance, this would be 2018. 03. Okay. Which would amend Chapter 184, Waters and Sewer, to repeal and replace Part 5, privately owned community sewage system regulations, sections 84 through 97 in their entirety. So obviously we've had a lot of discussion, a lot of questions, and again, we've certainly there's probably things we could have handled better in terms of notification. So I apologize for that. As Mr. Dents has just said, or Mr. Rocco too, we're gonna we'll have some conversations with TOFA, and I know change is never something that people take necessarily that easily, and so especially with your home. Especially when money's involved. But there is, again, not only just the requirement that we do this, but there's also some trust that we have in TOFA that they'll be able to do this in a way that will not be too onerous to the people that are going to be affected by this. So,
I'd like to add to that.
Sure.
The fact that TOFA can't do anything until we do this. So even if we did table this, we're just delaying them. I mean, they can say they're going to prepare as best as they can. And once we do this doesn't mean TOFA is going to do it at their next meeting. They're probably, they have a lot of talk to do with their solicitor, and themselves.
Engineers.
And they're going to want to hear from you people as well.
Staffing.
You know, all of you are going to have a voice there as well before they can do anything. You know, this is something that was jammed down everyone's throat, including yours, and I know that. And I know we did a terrible job of relaying this information. But yeah, I mean, TOFA's not going to be coming knocking on your door next week, is my point.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so motion to approve ordinance 18-3.
I'll second it.
Or no, I'm looking for a motion.
Oh, I thought you made a motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right, you'll still second out. Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right.
Can we
All
take a 2-minute?
All right, yeah, we'll take a brief recess. Bid for the 2018 Falls Township Road Improvement Program. Mr. Gray?
Township received a letter from Mr. Sullivan dated July 13th regarding the 2018 Road Improvement Program. T&M did review the bids submitted to the township that were publicly opened on July 13th. There were 3 bids that were received. First was General Asphalt Paving Company in the amount of $2,207,644. Second bid, James D. Morrissey, $2,233,646. And Scott Contractors, $2,811,547. Based on the bid evaluation, General Asphalt Paving Company is the lowest responsible bidder, for the base bid of the road improvement program. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Engineer's Office to issue a notice of intent to award to General Asphalt Paving for the total bid cost of $2,207,644.40. In addition, the 2018 Falls Township budget for this construction was $2,580,000.
Okay. All right, comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan?
Any comments, Mr. Sullivan?
Not at this time, thank you.
And General Asphalt's a good thing, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
No, I have none.
All right, so we're just issuing a notice of intent to award, but our next meeting is more than 30 days from now, which means that after we could actually authorize this evening that if the township engineer, after his review of the responsible contractor's determination, or makes that determination, if he lets the manager know that General Asphalt is or does successfully meet that ordinance, that they could be approved before our next meeting.
Yes.
Authorized to go ahead. Is that okay? All right, so that's be part of our.
Mr. Sullivan, you don't think there'll be any problems, I'm sure?
No,
I do not.
All right, so is there a notice of intent to award and also authorization to the manager to begin the project before our next meeting to General Asphalt Paving Incorporated, $2,207,644.40?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, next item is consider notice of intent to award a bid for tree trimming and removal of tree services, removal of tree services in Falls Township. Mr. Gray.
Last Friday, a bid opening was held for the tree removal services. One bid was received. The bid was from All the Above. Their hourly rate was $225, emergency rate $425, crane hourly rate $350, and not to exceed total bid $90,000. Based on the information, the board is asked to consider all of the above for the tree removal contract. In addition, Mr. Lawson is here for any questions the board may have.
Comments or questions?
No.
Yeah, I'm curious on a few things, yeah.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. I was curious if you had any thoughts on why we only received one bid.
We had multiple companies pick up the packet. I feel that maybe some of the companies that picked up the package were ones that picked it up before. They had voiced some concerns about the hourly rate. They feel that they normally work off a day rate and a half-day rate. I'm assuming that's probably why they didn't, want to rebid it. Like I said, we put this bid out the same way as last time, try to minimize any conflict of changing. But we have talked about the new bid that we want to put out in next year, doing a lot of changes to the bid that we had done.
Do these guys do any work for us now?
They have not done any work for us now. I checked a lot of references that they gave me. Comcast, they do all Comcast cutting. Ben Salem, I called Ben Salem, asked them how they were. They said fine. I also called a like an advisor from Ben Salem that they gave me his number, and basically this guy like asked about him and stuff like that. So when I called him, he said that they were a good company.
Right, and his rates seem reasonable, or what we were expecting?
Yeah, I mean, they're more in the ballpark of what the other rates that we had gotten last time. You know, we did get a lower one from one of the other gentlemen,
Right.
Which, you know, raised some concerns from the other people, like how can you do that? But, you know, that's the way he wants to bid. That's the way it is. It seems in line with everyone else.
Right, and what's your plans for the tree removal? You want to get them in and get them out as quick as possible?
Get them in and get them out of the community park, especially as quick as possible. Get the trail cut up, get the dead trees cut out, the ash trees and stuff that are there, and get them all out. We did a site inspection on July 9th. We showed them every tree that we want out, every tree's marked. That's why we had this site inspection, so they would see it. So that is the first initial spot that we would like to get them in. Second initial spot is Quaker Pen, a lot of the dead trees down along the waterway that we're redoing down there, and they're going to take all them out next. Our third spot is behind Buck Drive, off of South Olds. We have dead trees back there that the Public Works can't take care of because they're too high, too large. So are we going to have enough money to get all them out? I think we're stretching it, but at least we'll get out the dead ones that pose a real problem. I never really knew how many people walk back there, but a lot of people from that area do walk back behind Buck Drive there and the houses.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I know where that is, which is...
Buck Drive, South Olds Boulevard, right where Southway is.
Oh, before you get to Penryn.
Yep. So it's in between Buck Drive and Parkway Drive.
Okay.
On the left side of the stream.
All right. Okay, yeah, it's a shame we only got one bid, but what are we going to do at this point?
Yeah, and it's like, as Mr. Lawson said, it's more in the ballpark. If it was one bid and outrageously high, that'd be different.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, he's right around the same number that we got from the one bidder, and he's $49 more than the lowest bidder that we got, which was substantially lower. Everyone was like, whoa. But, you know, everyone bids their own thing. That's, you know, their business.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? Any public comment? Seeing no hands. Okay. Is there a motion then to accept the bid and award the work to all the above for tree removal services for Falls Township, not to exceed, according to their to the memo from Mr. Gray, July 13th, bid not to exceed $90,000.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Zents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Just hold on, stay there, Mr. Lawson. We're gonna let's skip to number 7 real fast here, just because you'll be back up here anyway. Okay, and I think that's it for you, right? After number 7, I think you're.
Number 8.
And 8, you're gonna do 8 too? Oh, okay.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8. All right. So bids on diesel and unleaded fuel. This is consortium bid, Mr. Gray.
Bucks County Consortium fuel bid was opened by Upper Southampton Township, and the results were forwarded to Falls Township for review. Mr. Lawson has reviewed the information, and it's recommending for ultra-low sulfur diesel, less than 6,000 gallons, PAPCO Inc., at a delivery rate of 0.02651, And for unleaded regular 6,000 gallons or greater for the delivery, that would be recommended for Mansfield Oil Company of Gainesville, Inc., at a rate of .0047. All pricing is done by the fair market value of Opus Philadelphia, which is posted every Monday, and delivery charges specified in this bid.
Okay. Mr. Lawson, anything to add?
I think just the one correction is with number 2, I think that's a minus .0047. So basically, they take like a $42 hit if we were to order 1,000 gallons.
What are we paying a gallon?
That I don't have. I tried to get that, but I couldn't get on the Inquirer to get the 5-day Opus. So basically what it is there's a 5-day, Opus has a 5-day marketing value that you get every Monday on Philadelphia Inquirer. You can look it up on there. So if that's $1.50, then we pay that for 5 days at $1.50 a gallon. If the next week it goes up, then it goes up. It's on a fluctuating thing. So basically whatever the Opus price is plus the delivery per gallon. So if we got 10,000 gallons of gas, we're paying a $26.51 delivery charge for all 10,000 gallons because it's under 1 cent.
Okay.
How many gallons do we use a year? Do you know? You don't have to know. I was just curious.
I don't have that exactly because we've been working with Pennsbury School District, now with the TOFA and stuff like that. So now we're, fluctuating a lot more than what we were before.
Plus the fire companies as well.
The fire companies.
I have the dollar amount we spent for fuel. Since last year, we've spent $137,000 for unleaded regular, and for diesel, $37,000.
So
And is Pennsbury still using our gas?
at this point, yes. I talked to John Hahn last week, the beginning of last week, and asked how he was doing because we didn't want to order and then, him still be used. Well, we wanted to make sure they were still using it before we did a large order.
Right.
And it's not the large order. It's we're ordering like on a Monday, then we're ordering, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks later, we're ordering again. Where normally we're about 4 weeks going into 5 before ordering. They used around 4,800 and some gallons, I think, so far. Now, we had the same problem with Bayer when our pump went down. They told us 7 to 10 days, and it was turning, into like almost 2 months. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? And the place that built the pump was in North Carolina, so they had all the storms and ice storms, and that turned into a factor. And then all of a sudden, they found it on Amazon, and Amazon primed it overnight. So, so they're running, I guess, into the same problem we did. They told them 7 to 10 days, and now it's extended so much.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right, any public comment? No? Okay, is there a motion then to accept the Bucks County Consortium fuel bid as presented by this memo from Mr. Lawson dated 6/20/2018?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Okay, and the surplus vehicles you're doing as well?
Yes, we have the surplus vehicles that came out of rotation or out of service. These vehicles are vehicles that are really no use to us. We can't move them down to any other departments. They have parts off of them. They have hoods off of them. They have blown motors. They have, mechanical issues that aren't worth fixing. Be thousands of dollars.
Okay.
So we have 20 vehicles.
You don't have to go through every single one. It was just,
Yeah, I mean, they range.
It's a variety, right?
They range for 20-some years old to 18 years old. It will go on Municipid. Municipid is through municipalities online. Everything's set up.
So if this is approved, we'll pick a 7 or 10-day window that they can bid on it. All winners of the bid are responsible to pick the cars up here. They are responsible to pay the title transfer. No cars will be given out until that title transfer is done at the local auto tags place. And myself and Jane Levson go to the auto tags place with them. It's done. We get the receipt. They're given their copy. We got our copy, and then they're allowed to take the car.
And you do have 2 X-Mark mowers on here as well, right?
2 X-Mark mowers, which I don't know if they're going to sell because, you know, the motors are blown up. They're not really functioning. So
Somebody
basically,
can, yeah.
if
They could be
they don't
parts for
sell,
somebody.
possibly we could just scrap them out.
Okay. All right.
They're different. They are different than a vehicle because a vehicle is titled, and they just have a origin
Does
title.
municipal bid take a percentage of the sale, or?
They get a percentage of the sale, but it does not come from our proceeds. It is added on to, like a buyer premium.
Okay.
So if you, say it's a 5%, you bid $100, you have to pay $105 at the end.
And
And then
if it doesn't sell, do we pay anything?
you don't pay anything.
Then we call Junkyard Barbie.
For somebody, yeah.
Leon's done a pretty good job of
Yeah.
taking stuff off of him. So, I mean,
Yeah.
some of them are pretty stripped out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there are pretty, again, a decent variety, a lot of Crown Victorias, a couple smaller cars, vans, heavy-duty work vehicles, you know, so, and again, ranging in age from, I think the oldest one I see is in 1993 up to 2011. It looks like the newest one. So, and will we list these on the website too, I guess, these vehicles, or just go municipal bid? I guess just...
We could put them on reference that they are on the municipal bid.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. That sounds a good idea. All right, any public comment, questions? Anything else, Mr. Lawson, on this? All right, this is Resolution
11,
placing
Yes.
these vehicles and mowers in auction. Is there a motion to approve 1811, Resolution 1811?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. You doing the landscaping one too, or are you done?
No, I don't
You're
think.
done.
No.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's bounce back to 6 here.
yeah.
We'll do Jones Engineering. So Mr. Jones is here. Consider proposal for professional services for the design work for South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. Mr. Gray?
Yes, Township did receive a proposal from Mr. Jones at Jones Engineering for professional services for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. The existing corrugated metal pipe culvert has recently been inspected and has multiple areas of extreme wear and potential failures. Mr. Jones has reviewed and inspected the site and has provided a proposal in the amount of $67,720 for board review and consideration. Mr. Jones is here tonight for any questions the board may have.
Okay, comments or questions from Mr. Gray or Mr. Jones?
No.
Yeah, I do have one. This is, I think this is the second culvert we've replaced in 2 or 3 years, well, soon to be.
Yeah.
How many are there in Falls? Do we have any
These
idea?
are 5 bridges on the bridge inspection report, 5 bridges that PennDOT inspects for us and gives us annual reports, and we've incorporated some of those changes into road programs in the past. This was on the list, and it identified some deterioration, but a recent inspection proved that it was pretty seriously deteriorating.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if we could budget for it.
We had, I believe we had budgets in the past road programs, but it was quite a while ago, so
Okay.
we haven't
great.
included these repairs in recent road programs.
Cool. Thank you, Joe.
The other thing I did see, your bid is total project fee, but then underneath that's estimated fees for outside consultants. Is that something that's going to be as needed?
No, so they will be needed, and they are similar to the outside consulting services that we used for the last program, or the last culvert replacement in 2011. We needed some help with environmental services to divert the stream, in which case we will probably investigate alternative consultants. So we'll ask T&M for a price.
So
Conestoga Rovers, I think, was another firm. So we'll need geotechnical help, and we'll need environmental help.
So will we be approving the 17,000 tonight, or is that something we'll come back to with a change order?
Well, we would solicit bids, and so we'd nail the number down. So
okay,
that's
you're
a
assuming.
budget number, yes.
Okay, all right, so we're just looking at the 67,720, right? Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
So again, this is, we mentioned this at the previous meeting, South Olds Boulevard. This is near the Oxford Valley Golf Course. People think of a bridge and they're thinking of, like, you know, the Ben Franklin Bridge or something. This is really just, you're driving over a stream. There are culverts, pipes underneath that overpass bridge that allow that stream to flow, but these culverts are failing, as you heard Mr. Jones say, and not allowing the stream to flow. There's some thought that possibly by improving this, it may alleviate some flooding issues down there, because that area does flood, the golf course area, Blau Court, that area. No guarantee that this will be a silver bullet that'll cure everything, but it does have to be done. And so this is work that we want to try and get moving on, especially the engineering part. Okay, is there a motion then to accept a proposal from Jones Engineering for professional services for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement, $67,720?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, item 9, consider change order number 1 for the 2016 Falls Township Road Improvement Program. Mr. Gray?
Yes, T&M has provided information on change order number 1 for the 2016 Road Improvement Program. The contractor is Bustleton Services. This is for $4,445, and this was to furnish and install additional topsoil. The original contract amount was $18,990. With this change order number 1 of $4,445, the revised contract will increase to $23,435. Board is asked to consider change order number 1.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, any comments from you?
Now, we narrowed this down to topsoil. We had issues with growing grass for that particular road program. We changed the seeding specs and a lot of other things. The contractor wanted a little bit more money than this, but we agreed to pay him for the extra topsoil for areas where we had to go farther into our yards than we thought we had to.
So this is work that's already done?
This is work that's been done for a couple of years now.
For what? How long has it been done?
Since 2016.
What? And why are we doing
Maybe
this now?
a little bit 2017. Well, there was a lot of discussions between the contractor and our office, so.
You still use this guy?
Yeah, we used them for the next road program, everything went fine. Because of the change in seeding spec.
Right.
Changed what?
The seeding spec.
Oh, seeding.
Yeah.
Seed.
Seeds.
Grass seed, seeding. Grass seed. Yes.
All right, so any other comments or questions?
No.
No public comment? Is there a motion to authorize change order number 1 for the Falls Township 2016 Road Improvement Program to landscaping in the amount of $4,445?
Yes. I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents? Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, consider adoption resolution for the Act 537 plan update. We've talked a lot about the requirements of DEP earlier this evening. This 537 plan essentially deals with how the township deals with sewage facilities, wastewater, and essentially has to make sure that we're doing it, all the proper procedures, policies are in place to make sure it's done, in the safest manner, most efficient manner possible. So this is something we've been looking at studying for a long time. Remington and Vernick, the engineers, have been spending a long time working on this, and we're ready to approve this. Comments or questions for Mr. Clark or Ms. Gallagher on this?
This is our final step now with the DEP and water and sewer and everything else. Tomorrow, they're going to say everything's good, we're done?
Yes.
Yes, tomorrow?
At this point, with the adoption of this plan, we've done what DEP has asked us to do. The 537 plan proposes to do the following. It's going to continue the TOFA I&I reduction program that we had spoken about earlier. It is going to accept the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority Neshaminy Interceptor analysis and required improvements to the Neshaminy Interceptor, which includes the construction of a 54-inch relief sewer, and it's going to adopt a sewage management program to outline the responsibilities, guidance, maintenance, repair, and enforcement of the existing on-lot systems. So with this, we will have done everything that DEP has asked us to do, and we should begin to start having some connections released to the township almost immediately.
Thank you.
Okay. Comments or questions? This will be Resolution 18-12.
12.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 18-12?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 18-12.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Been a long time coming.
Minutes for June 19th, 2018.
Are you believing this is the last of it?
No.
Comments, questions?
Excellent minutes as always, Mrs. Pullen.
Yeah, I was not at the meeting, but I did watch the video, and the minutes are aligned to the meeting itself.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
I will second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Sullivan, engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Not a whole lot to talk about today. We did the road program earlier, so that will get started toward the end of August and run for a period. It probably won't be completed for landscaping and such before the end of the year, but we'll see how that goes. As far as capital work, that's the only thing that's going on right now. We had 3 pre-cons today. Kelly Pipe was one of them. The Delaware Canal Tunnel was one of the other ones, and one of the projects down at the KIPC.
Are they building another tunnel? Are they building another tunnel?
That's the same one. They just finally got around to it.
Got it.
Yeah. St. Joseph's, most of the site work is done there, so they're starting to be concentrating on building structures where people can live. That's all that I have at this time.
Okay. All right. No comments or questions. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Bill lists tonight in the amount of $2,223,683.85. Of that, roughly $2.2 million, $1.9 million is escrow, which is developers' funds, state funds, salary, benefits, and insurance. Again, that's 1.9 out of the 2.2. So about $300,000 is basically everything else, everything from supplies for the summer camp to vehicle parts, legal fees, engineering fees, electricity, fuel, pool supplies for Pinewood Pool, traffic light parts, things like that. Comments or questions on the bill list?
No.
Is there a motion to pay the bills July 17th, 2018?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, we had an executive session earlier. Chief, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll promise to make this as brief as possible. We just finished up our Coffee with a Cop last month. I felt it was very successful, although I would have liked turnout to be a little bit better. But I thought we were successful in handling all the questions and covering what we felt, all the problems that the public had.
Was there any, like, one topic that came out?
No, there were several topics, dealing with their neighborhoods and how we were patrolling, so on and so forth. And we were kind of relieving their tensions.
Right,
of
right.
how they felt, their trepidation.
Okay.
We just began the Youth Police Academy. We're in the second week of it. As you know, the catalyst behind it is Officer Yeager, but we also have a lot of police officers that are volunteering their time and are working there together with that. We also have other police officers from other police agencies working there. We also have the Army, Navy, Marines, and Coast Guard there. And I would just like to thank them on behalf of myself and our township for their due diligence in helping us make this program successful. This most recent staff meeting, Lieutenant Whitney spoke with the corporals and sergeants, making them aware to utilize bikes on the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. So if the people that are watching this happen to see a police officer driving a bicycle through their neighborhood late at night, what we're doing is, on the summer hours, people have a tendency, you run your air conditioner, so on and so forth, but they leave their cars unattended. They leave their windows down, and every time, all the time, we get reports of people pilfering cars. So we're having the police officers attach their bikes to the back of their car. They're parking in strategic areas where they're able to get back to their cars if needed, and they're patrolling the neighborhoods.
Cool.
Our DB just was in touch with me, and they made it known. Now, Mr. Gray doesn't know I'm going to say this evening, but as a result of due diligence on Mr. Gray's part and Mrs. Rukoff, we were able to culminate an arrest yesterday for fraud. That this investigation started back in February that raised a red flag to Mr. Gray and Mrs. Rukoff. And as a result, they came to me, and I in turn went to Sergeant Finelli. And through good police work, we were able to make an arrest yesterday. The gentleman was charged with several felonies and misdemeanors. Ultimately, the township saved $134,000 as a result of due diligence by Mrs. Rukoff and Mr. Gray. I thought the board should know about that. Yesterday, I sent out a email to all the board members concerning the district attorney's office making an arrest for delivery resulting in death. And that was a joint effort on the part of the Bucks County District Attorney's Office, our men, and Mercer County Police, Mercer County Detectives Agency. Great police work once again.
So that situation, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that situation was the drug dealer, that was the drug dealer?
Yes.
Yeah, providing the drugs.
Providing the
girl
drugs.
had a fatal overdose.
Yes.
And that's great.
Very good police work. 3 agencies working together in conjunction. That's about all. Oh, one more thing. As I alluded to earlier this evening, I feel our police department utilizes community policing better than most agencies. This is not bragging, but we have 9 active programs that we do. And I'd like to commend the board. We can't do these programs without your okay and without you allowing us to do these programs. We're in and out of the schools on a regular basis, and we are the only active DARE program left in Bucks County. And Mr. Harvey, you're very instrumental in that, and it's because of the people that we have involved in that program. But without the cooperation of the board and the board helping us out, we couldn't do any of these programs. But there are no other police agencies that do this kind of work that we do. Sounds like I'm bragging, and I am a little bit.
It's okay.
But I wanted to thank the board.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Okay, manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, thank you. Just 2 items tonight. First item is an escrow release for St. Joseph's Court, located at 9172 New Falls Road. They are requesting a letter of credit release, release number 7, in the amount of $274,968. T&M has completed their inspection, and the work has been completed to their satisfaction, and they are recommending it. The board is asked to consider this escrow release.
Comments or questions?
No.
Okay.
How many are there total escrows? How
How many releases? They can ask for one every month while the project goes on.
They ask for them every month, yeah.
As they get stuff done,
They want their money back.
They can,
Yeah.
they can go through the entire project. Like I said, most of the site work is done, so there won't be too many more big escrow releases, I don't believe.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize the escrow release to St. Joseph's Court?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Just want to announce several businesses that opened during the month of June. Carnation of Bucks County, located at 394A Lincoln Highway. The Exxon, 299 West Trenton Avenue. I believe that was change of ownership. Robert Oliveri Jr., 429 South Oxford Valley Road. Community Services for Children, 333 North Oxford Valley Road, and Four Seasons Wholesale, located at 12 Headley Place, Suite 100 in Fallsington. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Board comment? Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, just one, it's not necessarily a comment, but it was the, and you may have been covering this, the Bucks County Tour of Honor.
Oh, yeah.
Were you going to bring that up?
That's right, you can.
Okay. Yeah, so we received a letter requesting some assistance, right? Last year, we donated 100, no, we donated 500 last year.
Did we? Was it 5? Okay.
500, yeah.
Yeah.
This is what, they meet at the park, at the casino, and they take the veterans down the wall, yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to donate 500, as we did last year.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just point out, this is for people that are listening, this tour, because I think they do different tours for different veterans. This one, which is scheduled for October 1st, is for World War II and Korean War veterans. And there'll be information about this. We can post a link, I guess, to this on our website to the Bucks County Tour of Honor. But yeah, obviously a great program and happy to support it. So thank you for making that motion. And the second, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
I should have done roll call. All right. That's right. Sorry. Go ahead, roll call. Sorry, I forgot we're spending money.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I had, long night.
Mr. Dents?
No comment.
Okay. Just a couple things I wanted to list, talk about. We talked about water and sewer stuff a lot tonight, actually. And I had already planned on talking about this a little bit. Levittown is unique in many, many, many ways, most of them good, but one of the ways it's not necessarily good is because of where the location of water and sewer lines happen to be, which is on people's properties, usually in their backyards. And we know that we've had some situations with Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority over the past couple of years, and that's something that's happening all over their service area. It's not just Falls, it's Middletown, it's Tullytown, it's Bristol Township. The issue, of course, is with easements. And there are a lot of people that have easements on their property for different reasons, and most people don't know they have an easement on their property. And that sometimes can be a problem, because if you put up a fence, you plant trees, you plant a garden, you build a shed, you build a pool, and you're on a Lower Bucks Joint easement, that's a major problem. Now, for certain things, a garden or even depending on the fence, it's not that big a deal. But if you've got a concrete slab with a shed on top of it, that's a problem. And if you've got a pool on top of it, that's a major problem. We have been working over the past couple years to make sure that people are alerted. If you're going to do some kind of work on your home, you're going to put up a shed, you're going to build a pool, put an addition on, put up a fence, you are going to have to make sure that you've looked at your title, which you have. We don't have records of these easements. Take a look at the title from when you bought your property and you have signed all those papers with the title people and the bank and everybody else. And there should be easements on there, and you have to make sure it's your responsibility as a property owner that you're not on a Lower Bucks Joint easement, because they can make you move it, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. We are going to add information to our permits for businesses and residential permits to make sort of as a checklist that you've certified that you don't have any easements on your property where this project is happening. So we're just want to make that known. And then I also want to bring up an issue about flooding. I think it was last week we had that one day of very, very heavy rains, even heavier than today. And the area around Birch Valley, there was some flooding, some minor flooding with the creek there. And a lot of that flooding, quite frankly, is caused by yard waste. People that are taking grass clippings, leaves, tree branches, things from their yard, and rather than put it in containers and bags and put it out front for trash collection, they're taking it over to the creek, they're dumping it out their backyard, across the street, wherever. Number one, that's illegal. It's also unnecessary, especially in Falls Township, where trash collection, waste management, thanks to the contract and relationship we have with them, they collect everything. In a lot of other townships, there are certain days you can't put out leaves or yard waste, et cetera. That's not the case here. And so just putting out, grass clippings, is something that, number one, is legal. It also will make sure that those streams stay open, they don't flood, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it like you do in other townships. So just encourage people to do that. And finally, there was obviously a news story that broke yesterday regarding Falls Township Fire Company. We made our statement to the media. The township was alerted by the current leadership of that fire company about some financial irregularities that they had discovered from past members. The 2 members that were arrested were members that were known to this board. And it certainly it was very, very disappointing. And you feel bad for mostly, certainly for the families of those 2 gentlemen, because they certainly didn't, families aren't responsible for the actions of those 2, but you especially feel bad for the firefighters themselves of Falls Township Fire Company. They are a lot of very, very good people at that fire company, and we stand by them 100%. They've been handling this expertly. They have a completely new set of leaders down there who have already instituted a lot of protocols to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. We have full faith and trust in them, and we thank them for being so forthright. They were the ones who brought it up. They were the ones who notified police. They wanted to make sure that this was something that was caught and fixed, and so we thank them, not just for the constant service and dedication they have to the community, but for going above and beyond with this and really doing the right thing. Despite knowing probably it was going to be embarrassing for them as a company, they should keep their heads held high. It's a very, very good fire company, as are the other 2 we have here, and we have a lot of pride in them. So, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.